Okay, and welcome to episode number 130 of Killer POV. That's right, we are back. Finally. Only one episode of 2016 so far. I'm one of your co-hosts, Rob G. from Blumhouse.com. With me, Heineken drinker, Elric Kane.
We're getting old. We're slowing down. We're gonna do like 3 shows a year for you guys. Don't worry about it.
That's not
We're gonna
true.
deliver it, the good stuff. every quarter. Every quarter, we're gonna get you one.
He's wearing his bedroom slippers now.
He is. And thank you, Adam Lima, for the Heinekens and the Krakens.
Are we going to unleash the Kraken,
No,
guys?
Kraken rum. He wanted us to unleash the Kraken. We are not doing it tonight. Listen,
Yeah, we'll wait till
we're
we're
first
back.
show back.
Yeah.
We can't get out of control. Last but certainly not least is Rebekah McKendry.
What up?
Editor-in-chief.
Certainly not least right now.
I know. I'm like inflating by the
Yes.
week.
2 of you.
I
It's
know.
tonight. I actually got excited on the way over here. Becca was texting us that she had news, and I'm like, "Oh my god, it's tonight! She's going to give birth
Yeah.
on this
Tonight.
episode
We're gonna
tonight."
cut it out of her.
I really hope not.
It's a trick. Get an axe.
Elric pulled out the keychain, and he's like, "I got this taken care of.
Yeah,
That's
Don't
all
worry
I
about
get
it."
is a bottle opener. We'll figure it
He's
out
like,
later.
We'll finish this night, but
Serrated cap to my beer.
yes,
And we don't have boiled water, we have beer. But it's okay.
Wait. We have Kraken. Unleash the Kraken.
That's probably sterile,
And the
right?
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you so much for your patience. Look, we don't want to not do the show, honestly, but we've had mild health issues all around the room just because it's winter and it's the new year and Becca's ready to give birth. So
I'm about
there's
to pop,
that.
gentlemen.
Elric was sick for a little bit,
Yeah, just give
and
Elric's about to pop.
Yeah,
we're
I'm
at
about
Deep
to
Nation
pop.
Studio tonight, but they were having mild mixing board issues, and we it's ironic. We were planning a few like double guests for a few episodes, but the problem is we can only do 4 mics instead of 5, so that just completely threw a wrench. And like, all right, well now we have to reschedule all these guests, and people got sick, so that's the reason for the delay. But we are back, and
But we
hopefully
missed you.
understand. And we missed you guys. We really appreciate
Yeah.
it. So that's that.
But we watched a bunch, and a whole ton of stuff happened in the meantime.
Everyone
God.
died.
Well,
like literally everyone.
Everyone
Literally
in the
everyone
first
you care about
3
is
weeks.
dead.
Everyone you
Except whoever's in the room with you. Kill them.
Oh my god!
Listen to me.
Well, all right. So first and foremost, Angus Scrimm, the tall man, the very genuine, lovely guy. He passed away a couple of weeks ago. We were lucky, collectively as Killer POV, we got to host a panel back at Texas Frightmare last year with the entire Phantasm crew as a reunion. Our friend Dustin Sane filmed it, and it's on YouTube if you want to check it out. But I mean, first of all, that was a great weekend. It was great to see everybody together. We got to see the movie with commentary. And even last year, I did a panel at Monsterpalooza. Ironically enough, I did 2 with Texas Chainsaw and Phantasm. And for both of them, it's like I took a picture on stage of Gunnar Hansen and then Angus. And when Angus came on, I met him for the first time when I was like, I think 12 years old at a horror convention. And to me, it was like, I can't believe I'm sharing a stage with you now. It's a tremendous honor, all these years later.
Do you think those photos of yours killed them?
I guess.
There's
Maybe
some
there's
weird,
some sort of
ring
some
type thing,
Japanese
yeah.
curse
When
on
Rob
my
Instagrams
photos.
you
It takes a really long time, though.
You have 2 to 7 months to live if you're really old.
7, not 7 days,
Okay,
7
yeah.
months. I got it. Okay. But I don't know. It's a shame. I'll say, I don't know about you guys, but because I know, Elric, I think you mentioned you were rewatching some of the Phantasm
Yeah,
movies.
so I mean, I know we're going to wait to, but I might as well talk about these 2 anyway. Phantasm 2 is a funny movie. It's like, I haven't seen the Blu-ray yet. I saw it a long time ago and I remember being disappointed by it because I love the first one so much. Watching it again, I'm not disappointed by the filmmaking in any way. I'm just purely disappointed by the casting in it because it just really changes the dynamics of that world. You know what I mean? The casting, obviously of who's that?
Michael Baldwin was the
But James
original.
LaGrosse, yeah.
James LaGrosse.
Just,
and almost Brad Pitt, which is
Yeah.
amazing.
Oh, that
when
could
you hear
yeah,
that tidbit.
But what I'm going to give a shout out, if there was a posthumous Oscar that could be given out to an editor, I would be giving that editor to whoever edited the opening of Phantasm 3, which is some of the most incredible editing to catch you up on story while also hiding the fact that James LaGrosse was ever in the second
Right,
movie.
'cause
So it's unbelievable. Like, it's so
They sort
clever.
of reshot Michael Baldwin.
Yeah, and then they still use all the other
scenes.
footage, and they just have a guy who you always see his back, and then kind of running and jumping through things and smashing through. It's so creative that it's like it should be released as a little short film. The edit of that. But watching 2 again, I used to fall asleep to 2 quite a lot. It was one of those movies I'd get halfway through it. I mean, those films are dreamy anyway.
Yeah.
But something about it would always put me to bed. Watching it again, I kind of liked 3 more because of the return, and there's something. 2, I still think 2 is a really well-made movie. The characters in 3 are ridiculous, right? Like,
I
it's
love
just,
that
it's
one.
like,
But
yeah.
I like 3 a lot too. It's just
Yeah.
it's fun. It's just a
It's
fun
really
movie.
fun.
It's definitely a product of the early 90s, and you can feel it because it's got this
Well, it's
like
Home Alone.
vibe.
yeah, totally.
But
Totally
then it's
bizarre.
got the plucky African-American
Oh my God, those scenes are
streetwise
so weird.
chick with like the big door knocker earrings.
Between her and
yeah, and it's just got this like, okay, well, what's hot now? Well, we should put some of that in the film.
Yeah, it's really all over, but it is fun. You're definitely right, and it definitely the thing it really points out about that franchise, it is definitely like one of the craziest franchises because each one is so different than the next, and yet it retains its originality each time. Unlike a lot of ones that were degrading, like Nightmare or something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I had a lot of fun watching 2 and 3. I've never seen 4 in my life, so that'll be next. 3, I don't feel like I'd seen. 1's still by far my favorite. I just think 1's a masterpiece. But it's it's nice revisiting them, and it is interesting to see the different use of the tall man. It's I think what throws me off about 2 is the shift in focus to who the lead of this franchise is, which is your ice cream truck man. You know what I mean? And it's kind of weird because you would think it'd be the boy grown up, and it would have been probably if the casting had stayed. So,
right.
It's a strange series, but it does make me excited for Phantasm Ravager for sure.
Oh yeah.
Once I get through 4.
Yeah, and Bekah, any Angus? Because I know he had a really long-standing relationship with Fangoria. I mean, that's where I met him initially. I really loved Tony Timpone wrote a really wonderful, long editorial about Angus that I thought was really sweet, and I recommend going back on Fango's site and reading that if you haven't. But
One of my very first, this would have been like my first month as an intern with Fango, like 12 years ago. We were shooting a commercial with him where he's like going through a casket looking at Fangos, and we wanted him to say something like, we're fucking Fangoria bitches or something like that, because we thought it would be hilarious to hear Angus Scrimm say that. And while we're in there, he goes, "Gentlemen, I will not curse." And we were like, "Oh, okay." And we were like, "Really, our fans, they're not going to take offense or anything?" And he goes, No, I just don't curse." And so we had to rewrite the whole thing so that it was much more PC. And it still turned out awesome because he's fucking Angus Scrimm.
Yeah.
But I just liked how classy he was.
Yeah, I guess he never uses profanity in any of the Phantasm movies. He just says boy.
Yeah, it doesn't say much else. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
did he act? Like, was there ever a role, like an acting role, like something
Yeah,
Juicy
he was,
did out there?
Hold on, give me 3 seconds.
I know he
found
appeared
a
in Deadfall, the Nick Cage movie, which is one of the worst movies ever made, but like just worst performance by Nick Cage.
Found a pic from him from like afternoon theater TV from like the 1950s where he was young, and it was like you could tell it was him. Give me 3 seconds. I'm Googling it.
I mean, it's not a great movie, but Twilight Time had put out that first Fango movie, Mind Warp, with him and Bruce Campbell in the leads. And I mean, again, not a good movie, but it's fun seeing Bruce and Angus together in something. And of course, it's like around that early 90s period where Bruce was like kind of at his peak, just having done like Army of Darkness and stuff. And Angus was, I guess that was around the time that Phantasm 2, 3 were happening.
Okay. I'm not sure what this movie is from, but clearly
Look at that young
early
Angus.
60s.
Oh, wow, very different.
Yeah. So I have no idea what that pic is from, but that's clearly him.
Yeah. Well, he was a lovely man, and I'm glad that we had him as long as we did. And
Yeah, you really can't mourn for people who are, who live a great full life like that.
Right.
I mean, what an unexpected life he has from, writing Beatles lyrics to being a star of a horror franchise.
Beatles liner notes.
Yeah,
to the original. And that was the funny story he told on our panel, saying like he heard these boys from England had to write the liner notes to their album, and when he heard their music, he's like, "Oh, these guys are going to need my help." As if, like, there's no way these guys are making it
so
unless
funny.
I talk them up or something, which I thought was pretty great. And speaking of music, David Bowie is one that I refuse to accept. I still don't believe he's
not really dead. I don't really. I mean, I like. Yes, he's not a human on the planet, but that's one of those guys. There's so much work that it will always be there that it feels like he's always just a press of a button away, or a.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel. I still don't honestly feel any kind of loss or anything. I just feel like it's still so present.
Yeah.
And he's obviously taken great. A great time to plan what will happen after he's gone.
Which is
and all these
unbelievable.
albums.
Yeah, there's a bunch of releases coming in the next year or two that he planned before he died. And I remember the because in the last 10 years he hasn't toured. He's done a few albums here and there, but they're pretty sporadic. And
we got a music video a couple of months ago.
Yeah, and he did two videos before this last album, which came out on his birthday, and then he passed 2 days later after he released the video and the album. But I remember watching that last video, which was I think it was for Lazarus. I can't remember. I think it's that one.
Lazarus.
And it was the first. You see Bowie. He's gone through so many like transformations in his career, and he always looks like this young, vibrant guy. And this is the first time I'm watching this video, and it's the first time like, oh man, he doesn't look well. And then he's gone literally 2 days later. So kind of unbelievable. But the fact that he planned that, because then you watch the video and it's all about death.
Yeah.
I mean, the last shot is him going into a black closet and then shutting the door, and you're just oh my God, it's unbelievable. But I did watch The Hunger on Blu-ray. Warner Archive put out a Blu-ray release. I only remembered vague things about it. I remember that there's like that amazing open cut to Bela Lugosi's Dead by Bauhaus. And I kind of forgot how they took the vampire lore is a little different than we're used to seeing, and he's kind of aging in it. And then I realized, Dick Smith did all the aging makeup, which is why it looks as great as it does. There's some really interesting stuff on there. I've never seen it look better than that Warner Archive Blu-ray. I mean, it's gorgeous. It's really gorgeous, and it's just an interesting film to revisit, especially now after the fact. So
yeah, his performances will definitely be something that people will be discovering for a long time. He's in a lot more movies than people realize. And he's just an interesting performer. Like on screen, he kind of is like an alien present, like he plays in Man Who Fell to Earth, which has always been one of my favorite movies. And because every time I watch it, it's like watching a different movie. It's very hard to pin it down. Yeah. And he just gives this weird presence to all the films he's in. Yeah. The Prestige he's really good in. Labyrinth, amazing. So yeah, he's in a lot of good things. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, shame.
Yeah.
Very much.
What can we do?
Yeah.
Really quickly.
Lemmy.
Are you giving? Oh, Lemmy. Yes, that's true.
I'm sorry. We can't move on without Lemmy.
Rip to Lemmy from Motorhead.
Yeah.
Elric's like, I don't want to set up metal.
Oh, my God.
I was listening to Run DMC at the time. I don't even know.
Oh, get out of here.
Come on. Lemmy did a bunch of trauma films. He's done a few other kind of horror-y films. But I got to say, like, my favorite thing he's been in is this British movie called Eat the Rich, which if you haven't seen, you need to. It's just an amazing piece of work. His Young Ones episode is classic, but yeah, Eat the Rich by far. And plus, it's fucking
Was he on the Young? Oh, he was on the Young Ones.
Mm-hmm.
Then that's where I've seen him.
Yeah,
I watched every episode.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
Just, ladies and gentlemen, remember this is the same man who asked me who Dio was at some point.
I still don't know.
Yeah.
Bring up a picture on your phone.
But I have heard of the musician Seal.
You're kidding me. You don't know who Lemmy is.
No, he knows.
No,
Lemmy.
I do now.
Come on.
Yeah, I do now. But
Airheads.
I know Airheads.
Trick question.
Just to,
Lemmy
let's be
guy?
clear on this. I was never a metaler.
You were never a metaler?
I was always into punk.
You were
never into metal.
a metaler?
Wow.
I was never into metal. I mean, when
funny.
Metallica, I liked.
No, I was there. He is. That's Lemmy.
He looks like a badass.
He is. He was a badass.
Yeah, supposedly he slept. There was like a rumor at one point that he has slept with more women than anyone else on the planet.
Wow,
I'd believe it.
And I don't know how he kept track or anything, but that was
the only reason I know that's bullshit
guy.
is because of Dolomite. Dolomite definitely slept with more than Lemmy. I'm sorry, Lemmy. R.I.P. both of you.
And really quickly before we jump right into, I mean, we've already started touching on things we've seen, but before, I just want to say, so I don't talk about it often, but obviously some of you that have been following along, about 5 years ago, I made a documentary called The Psycho Legacy, and it came out here in the States from the wonderful people at Shout Factory, aka Scream Factory, and all I ever wanted at the time that I made the doc as a fan was I wished and prayed that Universal would make like a Psycho box set, something that has all the movies together and then like all these special features in the dock. And of course they never did. Scream Factory licensed 2 and 3 and put them out on Blu-ray, and other companies put out these things. But there's an Australian company, I think it's called Madman Entertainment. And the thing is, all Australian releases, Blu-ray and DVD, are all region, meaning that you can buy it and it will totally play on your Blu-ray player. A few months ago, I agreed to let them use the documentary on the box set. I didn't really think anything of it, but I just got one in the mail. It just came out officially, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. If you're a Psycho fan, it has every one of the movies, 1 through 4, the Psycho remake, the Bud Court TV pilot.
Wow. I still haven't seen that.
And both discs of the Psycho Legacy. It's amazing. Right now, I think you could find it on Amazon if you click over to Australia. But I've actually been talking to a few of the people that we've, some of these DVD distributors that we promote on the show occasionally. I'm trying to see if they'll get copies because I'd rather them get the business, if anything.
Yeah.
So if you're a fan and you never bought any of the Blu-rays or any of them, try to get that box set. I think it's great. It's everything Psycho that you'd ever want is all in one little package. So,
and
totally
Bates Motel coming back, right? Soon.
I think so. Yeah, the
Pretty soon.
4th season. Oh my God,
Yeah.
that's crazy. So, all right, what else have you guys seen, Elric?
Oh, I saw some of these will be quick. I actually watched 3 versions of Macbeth.
What?
What?
It was
Why?
to help.
Explain.
It's a long story, school related, trying to help somebody out with an English class. And I showed there's an Australian version by the guy who did Rompus Stomper by Jeffrey Wright, and it's set in the modern. It's the guy from Avatar as Macbeth, and it's really horrendous. Like, I hated it. But it's also in the modern. They all have machine guns and stuff. I watched Polanski's Macbeth, and I watched Akira Kurosawa's Throne of Blood, which is the loosest adaptation and easily the best, one of the best adaptations of anything I've ever seen. And they're interesting because they're so bloody. Obviously Polanski's is, the film he made directly following the Manson murders of his family. So he was really using it as the blood as catharsis. And, Macbeth will kill someone and then go back and then keep stabbing the neck of the king and stuff. So it's really intense, but they are real, they are real horror films. That's the interesting thing about them. They're like really pretty intense, and you have witches, and in the Japanese one, it's a different kind of, that's the major changes from a witch to like this a singular supernatural figure. It's a great movie. Of all of these, if you're interested in a good kind of Japanese supernatural film, Throne of Blood is a great flick. Stanford Prison Experiment. When I did psychology, one of the most interesting experiments was the Stanford Prison Experiment by Phil Zimbardo, and it was in the 1970 and up in Stanford, and they took a bunch of the students' population in summer and turned the university into a prison, and had half of them play guards and half play prisoners, and it was totally off the record, like crazy pop psychology, but kind of with no safety checks being done. And it was meant to be 2 weeks, and 6 days in, basically with no real filters, the guards are starting to abuse prisoners and do crazy shit when these are people who are all just normal people. And it kind of charts. It's Billy Crudup plays Zimbardo, and it changed modern psychology forever, this experiment, because it really made ethics come to the forefront. Like, you can't do that, because what happened is a lot of these people claim the movie didn't go into it much, but I remember studying and the doc footage, and it would talk about like years later some of them couldn't handle who they became, like, especially the guards. The guys who had become guards were so ashamed of the kind of behavior they didn't think they were capable of, because it's also kind of coming off the peace and love of the 60s. Really interesting movie, quite intense, with a lot of young guys kind of like stuck in this space. I liked it. Watched new Paranormal Activity movie, Ghost Dimension, Blumhouse home run.
Not.
Oh, come on, Green Inferno. You've got to run for your money, guys.
Whoa.
Hey, we did The Visit. That's good.
I like The Visit.
I know, right?
So, look, Ghost Dimension, I actually, this is going to sound stupid, I hope it's not the last Paranormal Activity film, because I rather liked those films in general, and this movie is such a stinker.
Which is the best? Because I have never, believe it or not, and I think I've said this before, I've only seen the first. I've never seen these movies.
And I actually just ordered all of them so that we can watch them in the office, because Greg said the same thing. He's like, I've only seen like one of them.
I would definitely, I think 3's the best. I think 2 is decent. 1 is decent.
I liked Marked Ones.
Marked Ones is really fun. And then you've got really just 2 duds, like the one before Marked Ones. Yeah, 4 is terrible and might even be worse than the last one. But the last one, I don't even know what it is. I don't think it's a Paranormal Activity film. I think
I was confused by the videotapes.
The lore didn't make sense. The way it's shot didn't make sense, and the acting actually I didn't have much of a problem with the actors, and I thought they did a serviceable job. But it didn't have Featherston come back, and she was starting to become kind of a real key to the link to the past. And if you're going to end on that, it'd be like ending on. It's kind of actually very similar to how Saw ended, kind of with a weak entry that didn't really satify anything. I was sick.
One too many.
I was at home going, I'm sick. This is the time to suffer. And it's interesting.
Maybe I'll see it in 3D.
And I'll throw a couple there. I watched Stone Cold finally. Bekah, you'd be proud of me.
Oh my gosh!
And then I took the Blu-ray.
Now I have the Blu-ray.
I lent him the
not
Blu-ray.
Brilliant?
It is absolutely amazing cinema. And Lance Henriksen,
amazing cinema.
One of the great Lance
pure
Henriksen.
Cinema?
It's pure action crap cinema,
now
but
you
in
know
a great.
Why? When Lance Henriksen was on the show, I could have brought in anything to get signed, but I brought my VHS copy of Stone Cold.
Wow. It really is great. It's a cool
reason.
movie for a lost 80s action. It's so much fun. And I double billed that with one of my favorite movies of all time, and I'm really happy it holds up. Miracle Mile came to Blu-ray too, and I bought those two at the same time. Miracle Mile takes place at Johnny's downtown, and it's the end of the world, apocalypse in one night kind of movie. Anthony Edwards. It's such a sweet romantic. And then it's basically then Armageddon starts. In one night, you have a couple hours to live. He finds out a message that's going to happen. What do you do with your last couple hours? And it's such a good movie. It's to me one of the ultimate LA movies. It's still there's dated things in the fashion, but just the way the film. It's by the director of Cherry 2000, Steve DeJohn, and this just got remastered Blu-ray. Everyone should check that out. It would double bill perfectly with what's the one with the two girls, sisters, and their. Night of the Comet. It's like a perfect. Those two films are basically perfect match. I borrowed your Big Trouble in Little China. I showed a classroom. I haven't seen Big Trouble in a little while. One of my favorite movies as a kid. I showed 10 students, a class I had, all virgins of Big Trouble in Little China.
Oh,
we're studying action cinema. I showed the whole movie. I showed the first 10 minutes of Cobra. And said, this is the greatest 10 minutes of action cinema. And they all agreed because he is the cure. And then I showed all Big Trouble, and they had never seen Big Trouble. And I was worried, 20 minutes in, I'm like, is this going to make any sense to these guys? And by the end, they're laughing. And the last line where she's like, aren't you going to give her a kiss? Nah. And he just walks up. You're like, it is Han Solo mixed with John Wayne in a movie.
It's so good.
And I just laughed my ass off. And it's so gratifying to see how a film like that can last through time because it's such a risky, bizarre movie.
Right.
And such a shift of so many tones and genres in there,
Well, I have good news for you. I mean, obviously they never made a sequel, and now they're talking, Rock is talking about remaking it or whatever. But John Carpenter is co-written with Eric Powell a comic book series of Big Trouble in Little China. I had heard about it last year. I bought the first graphic novel, which is the first 6 issues. You can get it on Amazon or whatever. And I was a little nervous. I'm like, I think I need to do this. It literally takes place the next frame of the movie. So it's a true sequel.
Oh, cool.
And it is brilliant. It is so funny. They capture the tone perfectly.
You have it at home?
I have it. I'll lend it to you.
Definitely.
And I mean, that one of the additions of, because that Jack Burton always tells backstories or whatever. So the hilarious, it's funny. They actually define, and it's not really a spoiler, but they actually define why he doesn't kiss Kim Cattrall goodbye, because he keeps telling stories that reminds me of my third wife back in Alabama, and then it cuts to a flashback of his third wife. He literally has 6 wives out there somewhere. So I was like, oh my god, I wish that movie was a big hit. They could have made that sequel back in the day.
Chicks in the Mail. Yeah, it's just so entertaining. I'll just fire off 2 quickly. I finally got to see Cat's Eye. Had never seen it.
Really?
It was on TCM a while back, and I retaped it.
Natasha Kin.
No. You're thinking Cat People. Cat's Eye.
I am Cat's Eye.
You own it.
It is
Drew
Barrymore.
Yeah, the anthology.
The anthology with the little gremlin.
Yeah, the James Woods Quitters Inc. was really funny, but the one I loved is the middle one, which is this gangster. It's the guy from Airplane, and he's with a gangster's wife. So the gangster basically takes him to this 100-story building and says if you can crawl around the edge of this building outside on the thing, I'll let you live and take my wife. He's like a gambling addict, and so he makes this bet, and then things just go downhill from there. And it's a little more Twilight Zone-y, but look, as an anthology, it's pretty uneven. It's Louis Teague directed. They're all more funny than they are scary, which isn't really as much my bag. But I loved the middle story. I just thought it was so much fun and such a weird little.
I'd like to re-see it because I remember it vaguely. I just remember the Drew Barrymore and the little troll thing.
Yeah, the troll thing's okay
when I was a kid.
Yeah,
but that stood out to me.
Well, that's one of the problems with it is because, okay, here's the weird thing. That last one would be so perfect for kids, right? It's like this perfect kids movie. But the other two have like, the James Woods one has the most fucked up adult humor. No child could ever watch it. It's like I'm going to send guys to rape your wife if you don't quit smoking.
Yeah,
that's
I'm going to lock her in a cage and electrocute her.
Yeah, but that's step one. Step two, if you break that, is we go rape her. Step three is we do something to your daughter, and step four is we kill you if you don't give up smoking. So this is how you're, and so you're like, you could really, this is such a, it's a confused anthology, because for adults that's great, but then adults get to the last one and it's like a kid's film.
Right.
So it's a weird tone.
Which is ironic that last one was
the one you remember
prominent to me as a kid.
And like coming off something like Creepshow, where they all have such kind of a light tone, to be honest, and going to this where a lot of them are just dark.
It's just weird. Yeah, it's a weird. It's a weird mix, but it's fun. And if you look, I gotta recommend people, and I try to tweet my best about it. But you guys have to understand that some of the best horror films that are hard to find good copies of will play pristine HD masters on Turner Classic Movies, especially TCM Underground, every Saturday. And so it's, to me, every Saturday I'm looking at what they're playing, and I'm getting things like every week that I can't find a good copy of. And here they are, perfect, pristine copies of these movies that I can just tape and watch. And so it's been really gratifying. The other one I got that night was Sophie's The Church, which I had. There are good copies of. I hadn't seen it in a long time, and
it's a slow, but it's not bad.
I changed my opinion a lot. Look, when I was young, I hunted it down. I actually got it on a trip to New York from New Zealand at Kim's Video, and it was the only place I could find it. And it had like the little warning inside, like how it's this really great movie you haven't seen. And I remember thinking, oh, it's all build up with no real payoff. That was my memory of it, and I was like, oh, I'm curious to see it again. And as it went off, it still isn't a real Demon sequel. It stops short of really being one of the Demons movies. You know what I mean? If I'd say it would need like 20 minutes of just unhinged demons for it to.
Right.
But it's actually really creative and cool and creepy. And the couple parts that do have like monster kills and stuff, there's a really weird scene where like Rosemary's Baby take off, where he's mating with a woman and it looks like a giant demon. It's really cool. It's a really cool movie. If people haven't seen it, I would definitely recommend giving it another look. And it's like, honestly, I think one of the names most missed. Like everyone's, I miss Argento, and then Argento fell off at a certain point. No matter what you think, Sophie only made a few films, and every one of them is interesting.
Yeah,
I've not seen a film by him, and he left the industry for good reasons initially. But I've heard he was coming back.
I thought I heard that too.
I haven't heard what he made, but great filmmaker. And then I'll leave the last one because it's something we both watched.
Bekah, what did you see?
Yeah,
you didn't see The Boy, did you?
I did not see The Boy yet.
We'll get to that in a minute then.
But I ended up, let's see, what did I see? I watched straight Tales from the Hood.
Yes.
Which is awesome, and it's streaming on Hulu right now. Such a fun film.
Excellent.
It's one of another anthology that I think sometimes gets overlooked, or because it was more of an urban film, it kind of got like, it's in the same vein as like Snoop Dogg's Bones or things like that. And it's not.
That's a fine film.
That's why I avoided it for a long time. I didn't watch it for that reason. Then when Mike showed it at Secret 16, I loved it. I thought it was one of the great
it's
anthologies.
Just a top-notch anthology. I watched Mute Witness, which is definitely kind of a lesser-known one.
Great cover.
I love
the stitched-up mouth.
Yeah, that film is so good. It's definitely like a 90s product.
Yeah.
But it's about a makeup artist working on a film shoot in Russia, and she's a deaf mute. But it doesn't really matter because everyone on the film shoot is speaking different languages, because you've got a Russian crew with English producers, and then some of the other people are German, and everyone's speaking different languages, and then she can't really understand, no one can communicate with her because she's mute. And she witnesses, one night she's cleaning up on set after hours, and she thinks that they're getting ready to shoot a porno, like secretive porno, and it turns out to be a snuff film. And she witnesses the murder. And so then the gangsters who shot it are then trying to hunt her down and kill her, but she can't communicate that with anybody. And it's a really good thriller. It's just Hitchcock straight.
Yeah.
It's
excellent.
So well done.
And I remember the opening scene is really strong because it opens on a traditional slasher trope.
Yeah.
But then there's a little twist to it, and you're like, oh, that was kind of cool. But I was like, I'm ready to watch that movie too.
Yeah, I know.
Really
I was
well
like,
executed.
you could keep going with there. I was cool with that.
But yeah, no, it's a great thriller. I mean, it's most notoriously known. You can look it up online. But so I can't remember the filmmaker, but it's fairly like his first movie or fairly early in his career. Alec Guinness is in it. He's got this quick role that's in the movie.
But it spans a couple decades.
Yeah, what happened is, so in the movie, I guess like there's a guy, was he the guy that was like that ordered the snuff film or something like that? I can't remember what he had to do with the criminals, but he has one quick scene where essentially he's like the mysterious man in a limo. So the characters come over and have a quick conversation with him, and then that's it. And the story was that it was something like 9 years previously. The filmmaker had run into Alec Guinness at a airport and had a camera with him. And he's like, I just want to shoot. Can I shoot a scene with you really quick? And he's just like, leave me alone. Yeah. And he's like, no, I just want to shoot something really quick. And he literally just made up like 2 lines of dialogue and shot it with this guy. And then he saved it for all these years and figured out a way to incorporate it into the movie. So if you look up online and Google it, there's articles that are like, no one was more surprised that Alec Guinness is in this movie than Alec Guinness.
Wow. Because it's hilarious.
It was just random footage that he shot with some guy that was chasing him at the airport. And then he ended up using it in his movie. And it says, like, star Alec Guinness. So it's pretty hilarious. But other than that, it's a great movie.
It's a great movie outside from that. Funny. So I highly recommend it. So definitely try to find Meet Witness. It is on DVD. And I don't think it's really been released to a Blu.
It hasn't.
I don't think it's streaming
anywhere
either. And I saw
either. When you posted about it, I know a lot of people were like, oh, I wish, Scream Factory would put it out or something. And then
Jeff responded and said, I wish we would too.
Jeff's like, I wish we could, but he said, I think it was Warner. Mm-hmm. It's a company that is not very open with their library.
Yeah.
So
it's a good one, though.
Yeah.
I watched the season finale for American Horror Story, which made me kind of sad. It didn't really tie up anything. So I'm now excited to see what the next season is. So I'm hoping that they bring something back.
I just don't know if I'm going to keep going. I watched it to the end. I liked this one more than the last one.
Did you watch the finale?
Yeah,
I
watched the finale.
And you were cool with it?
Not really.
Yeah, I was that didn't explain anything. And obviously, Chloe Sevigny couldn't appear in the last episode, so they ended up shooting all of her stuff like from her back, but it was obviously a double. It was weird.
That cracks me up.
Yeah,
I just don't. Yeah, that's got no through line, and so it's really hard to stay with a show like that where you're really into it for a few episodes and then it just goes everywhere.
Yeah,
and by the end of it, you're like tired.
Well, this
you know
one,
what I mean? You're just like exhausted.
With Murder House, I was like, oh, how are they going to tie all this up? And with Coven and with Asylum, I was like excited to see how they were going to tie it up. Freak Show, I didn't really care. And this one, I came back and was like, how are they going to tie everything up? And they didn't. It's just like they didn't even try. It's just like, oh, okay. There were so many storylines that just got dropped. Yeah. I think the only one that got like full attention was the story of Liz. I don't even, the transvestite.
Yeah.
Liz Tyler, something like that. Yeah. So that was the only one that I think got
he's
resolved.
A great actor.
Yeah, that role was excellent. And so I was happy that storyline got resolved just because it was kind of the most compelling and by far my favorite of the show this season. Yeah. But for the rest of them, I was just kind of like, oh, we're just going to leave that there. Okay.
Yeah, again, I really think some TV shows need like 10 episodes.
Yeah.
I really think that finite episode has really improved TV dramatically for me, for my interest level. Like watching Fargo season 2, I'm like perfection. I don't even need one more episode.
So good.
I can't wait for you to go to season 1 now.
Yeah, that is what I'm going to do next.
Yeah.
And actually, it's fine that you watch it backwards because
that's chronological, right?
Yeah, but I didn't realize how it ties into one of the characters is the same character. I had no idea.
Yeah,
it is so good. I'm loving season 2.
How about X-Files? Did you guys watch the first 2 episodes?
I did.
I only watched the first one. I have not seen the second episode yet. Part of me was kind of like, I don't know how I feel about this.
Why, Scully, why? I thought it was borderline on The Room, to be honest. The parts of the first episode, like some of the drama between them were like, what the fuck
I don't get that. I know a lot of people are mixed, but I don't get it.
I thought the second one was solid.
They're fine.
The first one I was
Scully,
like crazy.
She was acting circles. Gillian Anderson was acting circles around every other person in those episodes.
Joel McHale's casting was horrible.
Weird.
And Fox Mulder, Selena said to me, she goes, why is he playing the guy from Californication? Because he literally is playing the same character in that first episode. And then episode 2, he's totally back to Fox. Which I'm going to be totally forgiving because if episode 3 looks as amazing as the trailer did, I don't care how slow you start. I want you to keep going forever. I'm an X-Files lover, and I'll be totally on board. I just got to say the first episode felt so Now, that said, the last 2 movies sucked ass. The last movie is one of my least favorite movies of all time. Not just X-Files.
It's the bees, Elric.
It was garbage.
It was bees.
So I feel like it takes a while to rub that off.
Right.
You know, and get back into characters you haven't played in 15 years.
I was just kind of bummed that they started with aliens.
And I agree with that too, for sure.
Because that was kind of where the show kind of started taking a dive, when they started making every single episode about the smoking man and the aliens and the 3 lone gunmen and all this stuff. that's where it really started to fall. It was when they were doing the Monster of the Week episodes, or even some of the reoccurring, like Victor Toombs and things like that. That's where I felt that the X-Files really came alive and kind of sparked and interested. So the fact that they would go back to kind of where the show started to take a plunge,
it's probably why
it's just Chris Carter, probably.
It's gonna be every Monday, but they released the first 2 back to back. I assume for that reason.
Yeah, I think it was smart.
And look, I liked the X-Files, but I never like I haven't seen all the seasons. I enjoyed it immensely, so I had no problem. The first time I was like, oh, all right, this is a good way back into this world, because I didn't see the last few seasons, so I don't know what happened. And then
you missed Doggett?
No, I never saw any of the
some of the standalone Doggett episodes were not bad. It was when he got into the alien stuff too that it was like, oh man, this is even worse than when Mully and Scully and Mulder were in there.
Yeah.
But what was cool was this week at the Blumhouse office, we decided to start rewatching them.
Yes, we started from season 1.
From season 1, episode 1.
Playing in the background.
And like just playing in the background while we're working. And though we've all seen them all, John Humphrey has not.
John Humphrey is our social media guy. He's a very young guy. He worked at Jump Cut Cafe. So,
he's our millennial.
He's our millennial. It's always fun to see things through his eyes. And what I loved is John's quotes about the first few episodes. I think what he said about the first one is, Duchovny's hair is on point.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm like, oh, that's your whole review of this person. Great.
But watching it through his perspective was really good. And like by the time we got to the first Victor Toombs episode, he was like, man, that is sick.
Yeah.
And so, it was kind of like, it was good.
Millennial approved.
Mm-hmm. And then I watched a whole bunch of Oscar nominated stuff just because all the Academy screeners and the SAG screeners are going around right now. So I've been getting like handed everything. So I watched like The Big Short, which I love, The Martian, Straight Outta Compton, the one I can't even remember. It's a girl's name, Carol. And so, just a whole bunch of Academy stuff.
There's one that Elric and I saw that we wanted to mention just because it borders on, because it's not really horror, but it's
Room.
It's called just Room.
Well, our Irish guest who was on our show had written to us, told me many times how he thought that'd be my favorite movie of the year, and it's definitely one of the Oscar movies. It's the one I'd love to see win things, and it's really tense and really beautiful. But I told Rob straight away when I watched it, the one thing you're hit with, I'm like, oh, it's interesting. This is like the postscript to a horror film you've never seen. So when say Friday 13th Part 1 ends and the woman's taken to the loony bin, this is the movie about what happens to her 5 years from there, and how you mentally try to cope with that trauma of a horror film. Yeah. So it's like the postscript to a horror film, and it is a little bit of a horror film in the start of this movie, but then the person escapes, so it really does feel. It felt like almost like I can imagine the guy having been a horror fan. It wouldn't surprise me to learn that he watches those movies, and this is a very emotional, very realistic account of what it would be like to survive that and how you'd cling to your sanity and get better. And so I really appreciated that.
Always skating around what the event is, and I honestly think it's probably best you go in as blind as possible, because I knew nothing about the movie. Yeah. So it took me a few minutes to realize what the situation was and how dire it was, and I'm like, oh, okay. And I thought it was going to be unpleasant, but then like you said, then there's kind of the life post that, and you're like, oh, all right, that's an interesting take on this. Really, really beautifully emotional movie. So I strongly recommend that one to horror fans as well.
Yeah.
Really quick before we go to the one we both saw. So the movies I saw, I'm going to rattle off really quickly. The Guardian got put out by Scream Factory, and it was one of my picks. Of
2 thumbs up in a circle for that one.
Is that the one about
Friedkin,
the nanny?
bitches.
Friedkin.
Yeah.
Okay,
Friedkin
I haven't seen it since the 80s.
I had never seen this movie.
It'll give you
tell
wood.
Something.
Give you a whole tree.
And I was shocked. First of all, because you're watching a movie from the director of The Exorcist and the French Connection and all this stuff, and it feels like a pretty bad movie from the 90s, not by that guy that directed all these amazing movies.
I remember it being like something in the same vein as like The Hand That Rocks the Cradle.
Yeah, but with way more supernatural weirdness.
Yeah, but I'm not done. So you watch this movie, and it's kind of like it's got that early 90s feel to it, and like, you know what it is? It's like, here's a director that normally works with guys like Jason Miller and like Al Pacino and these caliber actors. I don't recognize any of these actors. Not to say that they're bad or anything, but they're not of the quote unquote caliber that those.
It's got that British chick from The Guardian. That's what I remember from The Guardian. That's that movie she's in.
And then there's like one awkward, it's like this nanny essentially this nanny that babysits to take babies and feed them to a tree, I guess.
Tree god.
Tree god.
Oh, wow.
It's a giant tree. But there's one moment where she's like in the park, and like 3 quote unquote punks show up. And this could be the worst casting I've ever seen in my life. But it's like 3 dudes are like, hey, what are you doing? Nice baby. And then it's like they chase her and want to murder and rape her, I guess. And I don't know if it's which order that's going to be.
Yeah. That's what punks do.
Yeah, but I mean, it's so like in a Friedkin movie. It's just out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And then she lures them to the killer tree. And I'm just like, this movie is insane. And I didn't know if I liked it, but I will say this. The last 15 minutes, the finale of this movie, is so batshit crazy and amazing that it makes the whole thing worth it. Where you're like, this is a misunderstood masterpiece.
I kind of just like your quote. I don't know if I like it, Rob Galluzzo.
I think this is
I don't know if I like it, but damn, that ending is great.
I think it might have come up during our debate one because me and Mike Williamson, this is one we both agree on as being like, I mean, I loved this movie when I was a kid. I can't speak to it now, but as a kid, and probably because it had a little sexy time in it.
Oh, yeah.
She gets a little naked, gets a little tree rubbing going on.
Man, it doesn't take much for you.
I like anything with rubbing. If there's rubbing, I'm in. That's all I need. We don't need anything hardcore here, guys. Come on, tone it down. But there's something about it as a kid. I really liked that film. I thought it was just fun.
Yeah. I strongly recommend. It's worth it to. It's just the ending is just so. I loved it so much. I'm gonna throw one word out there before we move on.
Yeah.
Chainsaw. Okay.
Yeah.
And lastly, for me, I wrote about this on the site because it's something I knew existed, forgot existed, and then decided, let me check that out because it was like $2 on Amazon or whatever. Henry: Portrait of a Serial Killer 2.
Oh boy! I didn't know
wow,
that.
I've never seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. So Henry, I did a research on this because Henry is it's not a pleasant. The original is not a pleasant movie. Mm-hmm. It's not the sort of thing I like to break out on a Friday night and be like, let's watch Henry: Portrait of a Serial Killer. But it's a really fascinating and interesting piece of cinema, especially as John McNaughton's first movie. Michael Rooker's amazing in it. Tom Towles. You have an amazing cast and a really, you know what it is? There's a filmmaker there that has a style. You could tell that this is a filmmaker's first movie. Mm-hmm. He's going to do interesting things later.
It was a very deliberate choices that he made. The way that the story was presented and unfolded, you could tell that it was a very deliberate style.
Yeah, and that's what makes movies like that are unpleasant stand out. I didn't realize this because, of course, I saw it probably in the video generation. It came out here in America in about 1990, but it was actually shot in 85. So it took a good 5 years before it actually made it out there to audiences. And this sequel came out in 96. So it's almost 10 years after the original.
Not directed by McNaughton.
No, definitely not. It's directed by Chuck Perello, who also directed... his previous films are Ed Gein, the one with Steve Railsback,
I like
and
that
The Hillside Strangler. So he kind of does these based on serial killer movies. So this is his take on Henry. And Michael Rooker sadly did not come back, although I thought that would have been amazing if he did. They got this guy named Neil Guintoli to take over the role of Henry, who I didn't recognize him. He's actually, a couple years prior, he's in Child's Play. He's Eddie Caputo, the guy that portrays Charles Lee Ray at the toy store and leaves him, and then eventually Chucky goes and gets her revenge. I was like, that's an interesting genre connection. But it's not. It feels, whereas the first one, it feels like there is an quote unquote auteur at work, and maybe it's just my memory of it because I haven't seen it in a long time. The second one feels like exploitation to me. It's really nasty stuff. Not necessarily good. I mean, everybody does their best with it. Henry essentially ends up working for this couple that owns a porta potty company, and the guy of this couple, it turns out that he's kind of an arsonist for hire, where he'll burn properties down for building owners so they get the insurance money, and he decides to let Henry in on his kind of scheme. And what happens is they find 2 kids kind of like sleeping in one of these houses one night that they're about to burn down. And Henry, of course, takes him out and wants to execute them. He kills one, forces this guy to kill the other, and essentially forces this arsonist guy to be like his Otis. So then from there, it just gets really unpleasant, where they go out and randomly commit violence. And that's fine and all for a horror movie. For me, it's interesting. It's when you are basing it on real people and real events, where you really have to skate a fine line. And so I went and read a bunch of stuff about Henry Lee Lucas and Otis Toole, thinking like, all right, well, what's the original one's a loosely based on those events and those characters. If you're going to do a sequel, maybe you can make it more based on the reality, but this is not that at all. So I don't know. It's a weird, unpleasant, not very great movie, but if you're an absolute completist like I am, I felt the need to see Henry 2 because I knew it existed.
I'm hearing good things about. There's a new film about the Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, set in the time he was in prison with Lou Diamond Phillips playing him, and our friend Mark Kelly plays some role in it. And I heard from a test screening, it's turned out really good. So I'm very curious because a lot of those are hit and miss. Those I'm actually 90% miss real life serial killer movies. Because they're often playing the idea of the killer, the kind of the thing they knew from the media, which is kind of a one note portrayal, unfortunately. Okay, I'll probably miss that though because Henry 1 is amazing, but also just that's an intense ride.
It's nothing that you kind of look forward to seeing. It's kind of like I should see this.
Would pair well with Angst though. Very different American and European together. That kind of film.
Yeah. And Elric, what did we both see?
Well, we didn't see it together. So you saw The Boy first.
Yes.
The Boy. So
we haven't talked about this yet.
No, I know. I saw it late last night, 10 o'clock last night. So you tell me first. You show me yours.
Show me my cards. I really liked it. Yeah. And here's the thing. All right, so I want to talk about it because I want people to be surprised the way that everyone should be. So I want to talk about it in loose terms, but it's obviously from what you've seen in the promotion materials, there's a creepy little
awesome trailer.
doll.
I think it's a great trailer.
It's a great
really
trailer.
Makes you want to watch the movie.
It's what's her name, Laura Cohen from the
ironically
Walking Dead.
The British girl who's in Walking Dead, who is now going to England playing an American.
And I'm so happy they did that.
Yeah,
I'm so happy they made that choice. I didn't want to hear her with a British accent.
No, she was good as an American.
She's an American. She's an American who flees to England looking for work, kind of leave her life behind, and ends up answering an ad to take care of this elderly couple's boy.
Yeah,
and it turns out that the boy is actually just this like doll. And it's kind of like,
a grieving doll, I guess.
A joke?
Yeah.
And that's kind of the idea is that, they lost.
Yeah, she laughs out loud when she sees it, and it's actually one of my favorite scenes in the movie because it's like, here's our son, and she actually goes, ha! And then looks, and there's just silence.
There's so
and
horrified.
You're like, oh dear.
Yeah, and I like that. I like the awkwardness of that too. So she is tasked with taking care of this thing, but obviously they explain that their boy died when he was young, and this is, I guess, their grieving process.
Yeah.
But then of course there's is it supernatural? Is it getting up and moving on its own? This and that. So initially, as I was watching it, I enjoyed it. It was, I don't want to say by the numbers, but it was definitely following what you would expect from the kind of like creepy killer doll sort of movies. And I was kind of furious with some of the jump scares because they rely a little too heavily on like
there's a certain part where there's two dreams in a row.
There you go.
And I said I was with Matt Carey Helms. I said, if there's a third, I'm not even going to turn around. I'm going to walk out because what you can tell happened, and Matt was saying it for sure. It's clearly they finished shooting this movie. They watched it. The movie's fine. And somebody said, actually, the first half's all build up. Put in a couple jumps.
Yeah.
And the problem with that is the reality of your world is bullshit if you put those in. Now, I'm not going to let that color the rest of the movie because I had fun watching this movie. This is a fun, dumb ride.
Yes.
And if you can accept that, and I didn't see the person I was sitting with 4 minutes in turned to me and goes, "Oh, I got it." And I was like, "Don't fucking say anything." So
that
I thought,
is such a Matt Carey Helms
and he
thing.
did, and in his face, he actually totally did. And for people who see the film, we'll talk about how he picked it. But for me, I didn't, which was nice until the very end.
I didn't either.
And so I really enjoyed the ending. Only problem with the ending, and so I'm not going to ruin it for anyone, but it's so close to an ending of another film of the last few years, so I don't want to highlight it because it would ruin it for you. That's the only negative. That said, it's a lot of fun, and there's a lot of fun twists, a lot of fun character stuff. It's definitely a movie you want to go with somebody so you can actually keep insulting the script as you go. Because you're always like you're 5 beats ahead of every plot point and every like kind of joke
but
and
that's
line.
That's what I was saying. So I just thought it was okay, and then I thought the finale was so good that I was like, oh, okay, that I kind of liked it a lot.
It's definitely a fun look. It is 1,000 times more fun to watch than Annabelle. Like, where Annabelle just bleeds itself dry with not fun stuff.
Yeah.
This is always
Absolutely.
fun.
Yeah.
But just know it's not a brainy horror, and it's not like there's so many moments where we're looking and you go, oh my god, but none of them besides the dreams made me I wouldn't have left. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's only the dream thing because it's a as writers ourselves,
it's a cheap trick.
It's a cheap scare. You're like,
because
oh,
as
really?
writers you always want to write cool dream sequences where you're like, oh, that'd be cool, but then you watch a movie like this and go, okay, I'd never write a dream sequence ever. Because it cheapens.
Dream sequences are what you put in when your movie comes out at like 72 minutes and you need to pad a little bit.
It cheapens the whole shebang. So, but it's a fun movie. Check it out if if you're into it and you want to see something that's not The Forest. This much, which I've heard is worse. I had fun.
All right,
excellent. Well, we have a really cool guest coming on who is here.
We have a boy.
We have a boy, and he is here to go over a couple of different things with us. He's here to tell us about the films that are coming up in 2016.
Yeah.
He just got back from Sundance, walked off a plane today, and so he's here to tell us about what he saw at Sundance. And he's also a Hannibal Lecter expert. And we would like to welcome to the show William Bibbiani. He is one of our writers at Blumhouse.com.
Yay.
He is, what is your title at Crave?
I don't even know anymore. There've been some changes. I used to be the film content editor, like everything film related goes through me, and it still does. But I guess film channel editor, I'm their film critic, I'm their head interviewer, I'm their head writer when it comes to film related content. I also write for Coming Soon, and I have the B Movies podcast with my co-host Whitney Seibold. On iTunes. So, and I'm on What the Flick on the Young Turks Network. And I'm very tired. Yes, I do a lot.
You do a lot. And we're very fortunate to have you at Blumhouse.com.
Oh, thank you.
You give us like some super awesome content.
I worry I talk about The Stepfather too often. I
did a flashback on The Stepfather last week.
You can never talk enough about The Stepfather.
Yeah, because it was inspiring for me because you put it on your like horror movies that should have been nominated for an Oscar list. And I was like, this deserves like its own article. So I wrote like a standalone piece on it.
That movie is brilliant. That's one of the best like sort of Hitchcockian slashers.
Who am I
There's really nothing like it.
Huh? Who am I here? One of the greatest lines in a horror movie.
Who am I here?
Oh, it's terrifying.
Yeah, that's really
This Terry O'Quinn gives seriously like that and like Michael Rooker in Henry Portrait of the Serial Killer, like my two favorite serial killer performances.
And then third is the guy from Nip Tuck who plays the Stepfather remake. That guy. Chilling.
You know, I didn't know for many, many years that Nip Tuck had a serial killer on it, and if I had, I would have watched it. But
that's the best part of it.
Season,
the best part of that show.
But after that is whatever.
Oh God, that show went downhill after that. Yeah.
But anyway, enough about Nip Tuck.
But tell us a little bit about how you got started in all this.
Wow. Okay. Let's see. Well, I was always in love with movies since I was very, very young.
Are you originally from LA?
Pasadena, which if you're not from Los Angeles is like 30 minutes away, and it's still a very big city. It's where the Rose Parade is every year.
Let's clear it up for people. It's where the exterior of Billy's house is in Society.
That's true.
It's where the Spider Baby house is.
Is it really? I never knew. Okay, that's awesome. That's cool.
That is the location of the Spider Baby house.
I only saw Spider Baby relatively recently in my life, so I didn't like grow up looking for that house. So
it's somewhere buried in like the large houses of Pasadena. Pasadena has some really like lovely neighborhoods.
Stately Wayne Manor from the old Batman show is in Pasadena. It's really nice. And then except for those particular houses, it's actually like a cesspool. Like it's actually a really bad neighborhood everywhere. That no one talks about that because everyone only goes to the same two neighborhoods. So I grew up there, and my mother was really big into old movies, and so a big part of my education was making sure that I watched stuff like Alfred Hitchcock movies, Orson Welles, Mrs. Miniver, everything.
Did you have industry parents?
No. My mom was a teacher, and my dad was a director of purchasing and testing for the Pasadena Unified School District.
Wow.
And they basically made me vow not to go into education because it is a horrible racket. Like it is.
I can speak to that.
There's wonderful teachers out there, but the system was very, very difficult on them. And so like whatever you want to do, just do something else. We'll support you. And so I applied to the UCLA School of Film, Television, and Digital Media, where I majored in screenwriting. And that was great. Met a lot of wonderful people, learned a lot of wonderful things. And then I got out of college and floundered for years. I wrote some scripts. Some of them got around. Nothing got bought. And I just didn't know what to do with myself. And then I finally ran into, I don't know if you guys know him, Jonathan London from Geekscape.
Very well.
Okay.
His wife trained my dog.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, she's great.
His wife Laura's a professional
dog. That's the most LA
dog.
thing you've ever said on this show. Jesus Christ.
Seriously, she is.
Someone in Nebraska just turned the show off like these fucking Hollywood douchebags.
Asshole.
Jonathan London's wife, Laura London, is a professional dog trainer. She actually does a lot of celebrity dogs.
Yes, she does. Well, she like trains them.
Yeah, she trains them.
Just to clarify verb.
Yeah.
Okay.
She trains them. But my dog Dexter, when we first brought him home from the shelter and he was like completely like mentally messed up, she did like some one-on-one sessions
she's
with
wonderful.
him and she like helped him. But I love Jonathan as well.
She's wonderful. He was wonderful. I had done one little bit of acting for a friend where I starred in a web series called Bus Pirates. I'm clarifying the pronunciation. Bus Pirates. It was about pirates who jump on a bus and take over the bus. It was a silly thing.
Pirates.
And I went on the Geekscape podcast to promote it, and we just started talking, and we realized that I was a huge geek, and he was a huge geek. And I pitched him, just off the top of my head, this dumb idea. It was right before the election with John McCain and Sarah Palin, and Hustler had just put out their porn parody, Who's Nailin' Palin? So I said, I want to get this movie, and I want to review it like a review you would see in like Film Comment. I want to really analyze it as a serious political satire. And I wrote this like 5,000 word thing about Who's Nailin' Palin. And it did real well. And I ended up doing like a whole series about like those serious reviews of porno movies. And then I started doing more, mainstream movies and comic books and video games. And then I started getting paid to do it. And then eventually I got a job at Crave full-time as a full-time film critic and started the podcast. And kind of here I am, I guess.
And what about some of your, because obviously you read a lot of articles for Blumhouse and,
Sure.
and they're, you know what you're talking about when it comes to the horror genre. You're a horror fan. You go to horror trivia.
Yes, I never win, but yeah.
So where does your love of horror stem from? Was that something that was that just one of the many film genres you loved growing up? Or where did
No,
that
I
begin?
hated horror growing up actually because it scared the living bejesus out of me. I had recurring nightmares about Chucky from the Child's Play series, where he would like throw kids' safety scissors across the hall and they'd embed in my forehead, and I go and I was terrified of Jason Voorhees, and that was that for many years. I was just scared of horror, and then I found an issue of Fangoria, and I started realizing, I always kind of knew it was fake, but I started seeing exactly what went into making it, and it really humanized it for me. And I started getting really obsessed, not so much with the movies at first, but the people who made horror movies.
Yeah.
And from then on, I was hooked. And then I discovered Evil Dead 2 and Dead Alive. I was always kind of a fan of the older stuff, the James Whale movies, Frankenstein, Bride Frankenstein, Invisible Man. But I started getting really into it and really obsessed, like everyone should. When you're a teenager, you need to like watch I've seen Evil Dead 2 like 100 times, literally.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I started really seeking it out, and that became my thing for a really long time. And when I ended up going to film school, I was the one who was like, everyone else was like, I want to be the next Bergman. And I was just like, I want to make made-for-TV movies for the Sci-Fi Channel because those guys work. Those guys actually have consistent work, and like the standards are real low, so I don't even have to be that good. Yeah. So I was really excited about that, and then it never panned out.
There's always hope.
Yeah, so like all good-hearted people. Oh, good. Thank you. I have one called Dipolar, which I thought was good.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then there's another one that's called Squirrels with like an exclamation point at the end. So maybe. We'll see.
Wasn't there talk of a big Squirrels movie recently?
I
Or was that
bought a giant zombie squirrels movie a couple of years ago because a couple of our friends actually pitched for it.
Yeah, I always hear about
And they
squirrel
had a trailer that they were showing at AFM, and then I don't know what happened to it.
I think people saw the trailer and they realized that's a stupid idea.
The trailer actually was hilarious because it was a squirrel chasing an old lady, and then you saw this squirrel crawl up in the tree, and it turned around and had a finger. It was like, this is brilliant. What is like? I would have put money into
You're
that
gonna have
one.
to sell me really hard on a killer squirrel movie.
Yeah, I don't
It's
know.
gonna be a tough
It looked fun. It looked like in the same vein as something like Cooties or Dead Alive. I mean, just uber gory, and you know what you're watching.
Wait, let's not put anything in a category with Dead Alive. Come on.
Just the same
that
kind
a
of
little.
gore category.
The splat stick genre.
The splat stick. Very good.
Everyone likes it. Yeah.
Now, you kind of just hopped off a plane from Sundance, right?
Yeah, I got back in yesterday, and I'm still exhausted. If you've never been to Sundance, if you're working it as like a film critic or anyone covering it, you're pulling like 18-hour days if you're lucky. Typically for me, it's more like 20. So I'm very tired. I saw 13 movies. I interviewed a bunch of people. Interviewed Rob Zombie and Sherry Moon Zombie. I interviewed Taika Waititi from What We Do in the Shadows. And I saw a whole bunch of movies, not all of them in the horror genre, but I try to pack in as many as I can.
Did you see Rob Zombie's movie?
I did see Rob Zombie's. I saw 31.
Let's start there. Tell us about it.
Well, there's so little tweet. Like I went that night after it finished, I went on Twitter and there was like very little reaction yet. I was like, what? Why is it not? Yeah, I was
here's my theory. 31, for those who don't know, is Rob Zombie's version of The Running Man, except instead of running into like electrified opera singers, it's Sherry Moon Zombie and Jeff Daniel Phillips and Meg Foster, and they're fighting off homicidal clowns.
I'm still kind of bummed Dynamo is not in there,
I
but
know.
continue.
So, whatever you have in your head of what a Rob Zombie Running Man with killer clowns would be, that's exactly what this movie is. Good or bad.
I'm kind of sold now.
Yeah.
That actually makes me excited.
It's fine. It's a perfectly okay movie. There's nothing really remarkable about it. It's Rob Zombie's shtick. Everything is caked in filth. Everything is very violent and sexually violent, and but there's good things about his style too. I think everyone can admit he really goes all out to try to have interesting characters in all of his pieces. And his aesthetic, whether or not it makes you happy or not, is distinctive. I think it's hard not to call Rob Zombie an auteur.
How did it play to a crowd? Did it feel
they dug
like
it?
pulsated?
They dug it, but they sometimes they cheered at the moments that disappointed me.
Yeah.
Like there's like one of the first kills is like there's this group of carnies and they're in like a van and they're driving through the desert in the 1970s. And there's no carnival though, so I don't know where they're going or why they're there. But in any case, they're talking about the acts they're gonna do, and there's a couple of like hotties on the thing, and the hot young people are the first ones to die, which I kind of appreciate that like this is a movie about 40-year-olds in danger, and not because any other filmmaker would be like, well, we have to have hot teenagers.
Eli Roth.
So but when like this young girl who we really didn't get to know very well, she was obviously fodder, gets killed really brutally towards the beginning of the movie, that's when everyone went, yeah! And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna.
It's a Rob Zombie movie.
The theater's packed. I can't move, so I'm just sort of like eyeing the guy next to me, a little concerned about how excited he is about violence towards women. It's one thing to be excited about the movie, and there's certainly a lot of action in it. In many respects, aside from just how psycho it is, it's kind of more of an action movie with horror elements than a horror movie. Does it
compare to any of his others, particularly like closer in style? Like Lord of Salem's much more his art house.
Oh yeah, no, it's not Lord of Salem. This is more Devil's Rejects.
Okay.
This is Devil's Rejects.
That's what we've
with
been waiting
clowns.
for. Just make another one like Devil's Rejects.
See, those are the ones like I really love Lords of Salem, but I'm like Devil's Reject. It was Devil's Reject.
Devil's Rejects was
good. I like
so much better than House of a Thousand Corpses.
Oh, yeah.
I think we were all just like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
If he's going to keep making movies, at least he's getting better. Holy cow.
Yes.
I remember
not a video
back.
game.
This is when I was teaching high school. Because I went into the profession that your parents warned you against, and I lasted all of 2 years before I was like, this fucking sucks.
Right?
But yeah, when I was teaching high school and my students kept coming in, I was teaching film, and the students kept coming in going, you have to see House of a Thousand Corpses. It's so good. And then I finally saw it, and having been like a horror nerd my entire life, I was like, oh God, is this where it's going now? Is this where we're at? So even though I don't like Devil's Rejects, it was like a breath of fresh air for me saying that that's not where we're going exactly.
It's interesting because when I tweeted about 31 and when I reviewed 31, a lot of people were like, but where are you at with Rob Zombie? Because there's only two kinds of people, apparently. There's people who love Rob Zombie's movies and will see them no matter what, and people who hate his aesthetic so much they can't stand it. And of course, I'm in the middle because I don't care for House of a Thousand Corpses. I think Devil's Rejects is pretty good. I hate his remake of Halloween. I actually love Halloween 2.
A lot of people do.
What I admire about Halloween 2 is because with Halloween 1, it just didn't need to be remade, and everything he added to it kind of detracted. With Halloween 2, he took the 8 halfway decent ideas from Halloween 2, 4, 5, and 6 and jumbled them back together into a sequel that kind of worked.
And a beautifully shot film. Like,
Very
it's actually
nice.
gorgeously photographed. You know?
But everything from Loomis writing a book in 6 to the abusive family in 6 to everything, it's all there. And I think it works, and I think it's kind of interesting, and I think Lords of Salem is great. I didn't see his animated movie. So I came to 31 thinking, I probably know what this is, and I was 100% right. E.G. Daily she plays one of the killer clowns, and a part of me was like, God, she's hot. Like, I don't know what this means about me anymore. But it's violent, it's disgusting, it's depraved. Richard Brake, who was the guy who killed Bruce Wayne's parents in Batman Begins, he has like the main villain role, and he's great. He's legitimately really good villain.
And this could be his end in horror, right?
Supposedly his next movie is a movie about Groucho Marx.
Groucho, yeah.
But specifically, it is a movie about the last 3 years in the life of Groucho Marx, which might as well have been a horror movie because he was like his housekeeper who was like taking care of him in his ailing health was apparently very abusive. So I'm not sure it's going to be that much of a shift.
Interesting.
I interviewed Rob Zombie for this, and one of the things I asked him about was his never produced script for The Crow 2037, A New World of Gods and Monsters, which I was able to get a hold of back in the early 2000s, and was basically Vampire Hunter D. Like, it was kind of awesome. Like, there's a guy and he gets killed and he comes back as the Crow, but something happens. I think his brain gets damaged, something like that, and he doesn't have any memories, so he doesn't know why he's back, and he doesn't know what he can do to die. So he ends up becoming a bounty hunter in a post-apocalyptic wasteland like 30 years later, and there are like strippers with flaming swords, and I think there's a wizard. It's nuts. And I asked him about this, and like, this was awesome. Like, what can you tell me about this? And he was like, I don't even remember what that's about. And I had to pitch him his own movie. He was so far removed from it. I think he's trying to remove himself from the horror genre. When I asked him if his aesthetic was going to be what we see in Groucho, he said, no, it's going to be a lot more like Manhattan. Woody Allen's Manhattan. So he's trying to branch out, and good for him. I hope he gets to make the movie he wants to make. That'd be awesome. The only other horror movie, like hardcore horror movie, there's a couple of like sort of crossover-y kind of things I saw was Yoga Hosers, which itself isn't really that much horror.
Yeah, I heard mixed reviews of this one. Most people told me it was silly, just like outright silly.
That was my thing. Like, you made a very silly film, Kevin Smith, and I interviewed him, and I just got right up to his face, and I was like, "You made a very silly film," and he was like, "No, I made a fucking stupid movie." Like, that was his thing.
Well, at least you know.
It's a very dumb film,
wait, but bring me up to speed because I have actually not seen his last like 2 or 3 movies.
You have to see the Walrus one.
This is sort of a spin-off of characters from that one?
Yeah.
Which is Tusk.
In Tusk, which starred Justin Long as a dickhead podcaster who goes to Canada to get a story from a creepy guy and ends up getting walrused real hard. Just goes total walrus.
Boom, you've been walrus.
Boom!
That should be your shirt, Kevin Smith. You've been walrus.
You've been walrus.
But, all right, so I understand the horror conceit of that.
Yeah, and for the record, from my perspective on Tusk, it is really bad. I consider it a point of pride that I'm on the Wikipedia page for Tusk as saying that Kevin Smith just killed irony. Because Tusk started off as a very stoned pitch on his podcast about the dumbest movie they could possibly make. And he said, if enough people tweet this hashtag, we'll just make it. Because, wouldn't it be funny if we actually made it? And the tragedy is, for about the first half hour, it's actually not bad.
It's not horrible. It's when Johnny Depp shows up as the French inspector. That you're kind of like, okay, this just got really bad.
There's a joke in it where, so it starts off pretty straightforward, and it's basically, here's a guy, like many horror protagonists, he's sinning in some way, he's not appreciating people, he sees people as fodder for his program, and he's going to get punished overly much for it. You can take that premise and run with it any way you want. Here he gets walrused. And then what happens is Michael Parks kidnaps him, and he's going to totally walrus that guy. And then it cuts to his 2 friends back in Los Angeles, and they realize that he's missing and possibly in danger. So they travel up to Canada to try to find him, and they run into a like rogue detective manhunter played by Johnny Depp in just terrible makeup, not even good makeup, just bad makeup, trying to kind of disguise his Johnny Deppness. And the joke is that this Guy Lapointe character is stopping the movie dead. he meanders, he rambles.
He's a magician, or if I remember, it's something like that.
I choose not to remember it. The point is that the joke is that he stops the movie dead in its tracks, and you just have to sit there and have lunch with him, and it's not funny. It's funny for maybe a minute, and then it goes on for another 10. It goes on forever, and it's not funny. He's back in Yoga Hosers, but they don't play that same joke, and he's actually quite tolerable. Quite tolerable is a really good way to describe Yoga Hosers, actually, because
right on the box, quite tolerable.
I'm fine with that. This movie stars Kevin Smith's daughter, Harley Quinn Smith, who is actually really, really funny in it. I'll give her that. Okay. And Johnny Depp's daughter, Lily Rose Depp, and they played convenience store clerks in like 2 scenes in Tusk. And now there's a movie all about them. They are teenagers. They're like surgically attached to their phones. They do yoga, and they just got invited to the big senior party, and they're very, very excited about it, but damn it, they have to work. And also, incidentally, there is a Nazi med scientist who's been living underneath their convenience store who has been cloning Hitler using bratwurst, and so they have to fight off an army of Bratzis.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God.
Wow.
Some people...
It's like Kevin Smith trauma.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. Some people were saying, like, they saw that picture. There's only, like, 2 pictures from the movie, officially, that have made the rounds. And one of them is just the 2 young actresses behind the convenience store counter. Looks a lot like Clerks.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are like, oh, is this going to be a return to form from the guy who made Clerks? And I say, no, it's a return to form from the guy who made Clerks the animated series. Yeah. That level of just dumb silliness.
Like Panda showing up and okay.
Yeah. Oh no, who's driving car? Bad driving car. How can that be?
Car, yeah.
Yeah. And here's the thing. I thought Clerks the animated series was kind of funny.
It was hilarious. I loved it when I was in college.
There's like 2 episodes that aren't terribly funny, but the other 4 are great. And
I'm sure it would annoy me now as like a 30-something, but when I was like 20 and stoned, it was fucking hilarious.
The second episode of the most brilliant thing there's 2 brilliant things they did on that show. The second episode of the show was their clip show. And they just kept cutting back to the first episode. And that was great. That's really, really funny. Problem is they showed the show out of order, so that was the first episode. Huh. So it didn't make any sense.
Which I still found funny for the first episode.
Yeah.
I remember when I saw it, that I was like, what? All right, this is crazy.
And then there was another episode where they did their big like court case episode, and they ended the episode just before the verdict came in. They said the script was lost on the way to Korea, and the Korean animators finished it on their own, and it just turned into a big manga party. And it was really, really funny.
Judge Reinhold is the judge.
So this has that level of just dumb, absurd silliness, and I can appreciate that some people might find it a little oppressive, but I think that Lily Rose Depp and particularly Harley Quinn Smith are actually very charming. And they got me through the film's not very good moments. And when the film is good, it's actually quite good. There's he does a thing, and I think a lot of people are calling him out for it, where he basically points out that people criticized Hitler's art and then the Holocaust happened. So critics caused the Holocaust, and a part of me is like, I'm sitting right here. I'm right here. Like he's sitting over there. It's so awkward. But then the yoga hosers are heroines. They find out that they're gonna kill all the critics, and their first thought is no, and they just go and yoga martial arts the big behemoth to death. So it's a very, very oppressively dumb movie, but I have no animosity towards it whatsoever. It's not great, but I think there's cute stuff in it. Okay. So a lot of people are saying it's the worst movie. Yeah, a lot of people are saying it's like, I've heard people say it's the worst movie ever, and I'm like, you have not seen many movies.
Yeah, that's right.
Everyone was talking about this farting corpse movie. Is the one that it's
what is that?
Every news organization.
That is Swiss Army Man, and boy, there's 2 movies that I regret missing, and one of them is Swiss Army Man. But there were stories about all the walkouts, and it's Paul Dano is marooned on a deserted island, and the corpse of Daniel Radcliffe floats up, and he like befriends it, and it farts a lot, and I think his penis is a compass. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. You don't just glaze over that. Okay, compass penis.
Compass penis, and we can glaze all over it. And it's. I wish I'd seen it. I also didn't get to see The Birth of a Nation, which was receiving standing ovations as I was at the airport.
And $16 million.
Yeah.
Which is huge for an indie. But
Well,
I when I heard about that film, I said something to Dick Grinnard. I was like, oh my God, this movie with farting jokes sound really. He goes, watch Amazing Ball, the short the guy made before he made this film. It is one of the most spectacular shorts I've ever seen in my life, and it's those kind of jokes, and it totally makes sense. It's like if Terrence Malick did fart jokes. They're these weird, existential, bizarro, and somehow they work.
Ever.
Just these vast vistas of wind blowing through leaves, and you just hear,
what if our life is only meaningless? But no, seriously, watch Amazing Ball. It's on Vimeo. It is fantastic.
What is it called? Amazing what?
Amazing Ball or Interesting Ball. The Interesting Ball.
Interesting
Same director,
Ball?
and
Everyone's
it is
writing it down.
so good. And thanks, Dick, for that one. Now back to galvanizing.
yeah.
Did you see Trash Fire by any
I did not
chance?
see Trash Fire.
That's what we most
Ricky
want to see
Bates,
because of
I'm
Ricky.
so excited about that one.
I know. Here's the thing. You never know what's going to be a big movie at a Sundance, and especially if you're only going there for a few days, which I was there for the first weekend through Monday, you're completely scheduled. I had to see things because I had to interview, with
Taika's film? You saw Taika's new
I saw
film?
Taika's new
the
film,
Wilder
Hunt for
People?
the Wilder People. It's not a horror movie, but it's
Kiwi
great.
movie. Sam Neill on my.
Sam Neill is excellent in it. Like this
Awesome.
is the best Sam Neill movie I've seen in a really long time. Yeah. And this is a movie about a little kid, this little pudgy punk kid who's like 11 or 12.
Is he Maori?
No, but he's definitely
Yeah,
Kiwi. He's
yeah.
very dark skinned, and he has burned through every foster family in New Zealand apparently, and he ends up at this family with this really wonderful, sprightly lady who's just loves him and makes him feel great, and Sam Neill who tolerates him okay, and then she and this is in the first part of the movie. It's not a spoiler. She dies, and all of a sudden the Child Welfare Service says, well, Sam Neill can't keep the kid because the situation has changed and we no longer feel comfortable with it. So the kid runs off into the bush. Sam Neill, who is an accomplished hunter, runs off into the bush to catch the kid, and then he ends up injuring his leg, and they're far enough away that the only thing they can do is camp out there for a couple of weeks while his leg heals. And by the time they get back, everyone in New Zealand is talking about this guy who kidnapped his foster kid and is probably molesting him.
Oh.
So they're both screw it. So they go back into the bush, and there's SWAT teams flooding through the New Zealand jungles trying to catch him. And it's got a really fun 1980s kids movie kind of vibe to it, like sort of frog dreaming, almost Legend of Billie Jean, although that's a little older, just because how much adults are freaking out over what this kid does. And it's funny, it's charming. For a while, it was the best film I saw while I was there. It's not anymore, but it's still really, really great. And it was for that interview that I got Taika to reveal the new title of the What We Do in the Shadows spinoff.
We are
Werewolves.
We are wolves.
Werewolves.
Which is just the most obvious pun ever, and yet I've never seen it before. It's really impressive.
Not swearwolves.
Yeah.
Werewolves, not swearwolves.
The best film I saw there was a movie called Christine, which is a horror movie in the way that We Need to Talk About Kevin is a horror movie.
Yeah.
It's mostly the tone. The actual drama isn't. It's about a woman named Christine Chubbuck. Anyone recognize that name? That name? Christine Chubbuck was a reporter in the 1970s who killed herself live on the air.
Oh, wow. I've heard the story.
Yeah, I've heard the story.
Yeah, it's legendary. The footage, don't go looking for the footage because you'd be a monster. B, it doesn't exist. Her family had it destroyed. But this is from Antonio Campos, who did Simon Killer, and and Rebecca Hall plays Christine Chubbuck, and it just puts you so much in her head in the days, maybe a couple of weeks before the actual incident. And you just see how her neuroses and her troubles at work and her difficulty socializing just all create this perfect storm of despair. And I was sitting there watching this movie, and I was kind of shocked and kind of horrified to see that I recognized things about myself. And I suspect everyone just felt that way at some point. Right. And I was just like, oh God, is this me? Am I going to kill myself on Killer POV?
No. Definitely be Bekah.
No,
the four of us. What she got to live? What have you got to live for? Look at you. Look at you.
I know.
Come on.
No death. We're hoping for an on-air birth.
I can't even sit up straight right
After
now.
the baby, come on, guys. I'm not a sicko.
Every time I say goodbye to Rebekah, I think of summer school, and I want to say, save the afterbirth for me.
I know. I've heard that so much within the past couple of weeks, thanks to the horror crowd. I always hear that.
That's
save
why I
the
don't say it.
afterbirth and the placenta if convenient.
That's funny.
Thanks, guys, for remembering the quote. episode.
But in any case, Christine is insanely powerful, and Rebecca Hall gives one of the best performances I've seen in a ridiculously long time. And whenever that comes out, run to the theater to see it. Cool. It will impress you, and it will scare you.
And any other dark films from that period? Or
I saw one more kind of dark film. Yeah, and this is a movie called Wild. It is the wolf-fuckingest film I've seen at Sundance. It is about a woman in Germany who really wants to fuck a wolf. And she's walking to work, and she sees a wolf. She goes, interesting. And then she finds herself, looking up wolves on the internet. Then she finds herself looking up how to capture wolves. And then she captures the wolf and she kind of drags it into like her sister's apartment, which he's subletting. And she develops a very intimate relationship with this wolf. And she starts getting a little bit more wolfy. Yeah. And she starts degenerating a bit, kind of not like actually turning into a wolf person, but, like losing all social grace. And there's a scene where she poops on her boss's desk and then sets it on fire like wolves do. And it's disappointing because
no peanut butter scene.
No peanut butter scene. Well,
yeah, that was going to be my next question.
There's usually
but
a peanut butter scene in these folklore.
There is a bloodier version of that. So this movie is. I was actually really excited. I was really excited to see this movie because. Dude, how many filmmakers go there?
Yeah.
How many filmmakers will actually explore the historically significant history we have of sexualizing animals in fiction and in reality, whether or not people act on it? That's a thing that exists.
Have you seen Zoo?
I have not seen Zoo.
It's a hard watch.
It's
a good movie, but it's a hard film to watch.
Fair enough. So I was thinking, okay, so we're going to have a film that's actually going to tackle this, and they don't go far enough. They actually run from it, and it ends up.
Far enough.
They don't actually. I'm going to say it right now. They not that they had to show a bunch of stuff, but dramatically, what this movie boils down to is, she probably shouldn't have got that wolf.
Yeah,
like that's the whole point of the movie. Basically, is what it boils down to. Is like, she probably shouldn't have got that wolf. Like, and I'm just like, that's what I'm here for. Like, she like devolves a bit, and it's like, wolves probably shouldn't be in the workplace, and I'm like, yeah. Well done, Wild. Yeah, it's actually surprisingly uninteresting.
How was Reese Witherspoon? Oh, a different Wild.
It's a different Wild. So. You were
Congratulations,
you're the first person to make that joke. Yeah.
Elric, I just looked up the plot for Zoo.
Yeah.
It's
a documentary. It's really dark.
This may be the most disturbing thing.
It's about a real group in Seattle, and they would always change, kind of like how Spotlight's about the priest always rotating out. It's a group, and they'd have secret parties, and they were like having sex with the horses, and they had traps to mount them, so they'd raise up, and a guy gets in. They only get caught because the guy gets injured when one of the horses falls on him, has to go to the hospital, and
it perforates his colon.
Yeah, it's a really dark.
Jesus.
And the one thing you learned about that is, probably shouldn't have done it.
Probably
shouldn't have fucked that horse.
Shouldn't have fucked that horse.
Or at the very least, you should have checked the security on the cables and everything before you.
If you're gonna have a movie like that, make it fun, like Barozik's La Bête, the Beast. It's like at least fun. It's absurd.
The Beast is fun.
Oh my god,
The Beast is kind of fun.
The Beast is fun. It's a crazy movie.
I can't even say the name.
Walarian.
Barozik. Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
It's I don't know if I'd call that fun. It's an interesting watch.
Wow.
Yeah. It's definitely worth seeing if you can handle it.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah. So, but I saw a bunch of other movies as well, but I don't think any of them are really,
save them for
really
other podcasts.
Yeah, I will save them for the other podcasts. Thank you very much, Elric.
What are you looking forward to this year, genre-wise? Because now we just, obviously we kicked off the new year.
Right. I was looking forward to the X-Files until I saw the first 2 episodes because they're awful. And I was looking forward to Shadowhunters until I saw Shadowhunters. So now I just get to enjoy Shadowhunters, which is awesome.
My God, it is the most fetishy thing. He had told me to see it. He was like, okay, you need to watch Shadowhunters. And I've only watched the first episode.
Never even heard of it.
But, oh my God, it's batshit. I mean,
it's really nuts.
So crazy.
If you remember a couple of years ago, they tried launching a new YA movie franchise called The Mortal Instruments.
Yeah.
First film was called The Mortal Instruments, City of Bones. No one saw it, and that was a huge mistake. That movie is amazing.
Really?
Not like quote unquote good amazing, but kinky as hell amazing. This is a movie in which they discovered, much like in Star Wars, like these 2 protagonists who had kind of had a flirtatious relationship. By the end, they discovered that they're brother and sister. The movie ends with them saying, who cares? And then they ride off together. Like, that's it. They decide to go for it. They don't care. There's like hunky teenage guys like chained to walls, and like vampires are like sucking on his man pecs, and there's
Seems like apathy leads to weird sex things. Wolves.
Yeah.
Brother and sister thing.
There's this great scene where CCH Pounder is talking to them, and then she suddenly develops this huge festering tumor like on her neck in like a couple of seconds, and then it explodes into a giant lamprey that tries to kill them. And I'm like, this is PG-13 and fantastic. Wow. So Shadowhunters, the show, is basically that movie didn't make money, so we're going to do it as a show. And I'm so glad they did. Watching Shadowhunters is like watching the fake movie in another movie every week. Nice. It is so fake and wonderful and stupid. The swords are plastic, and you can tell. The first episode had mythical biscotti and a band called Champagne Enema that played songs like Forever Young. The latest episode that premiered this week just introduced a flying motorcycle and a scene where the hero sexily blowtorches a rune onto the heroine's breast. And this is on like the former ABC Family Channel. I love this dumb show.
Wow. All right.
It's so bizarre. You guys have to check it out. After William told me about it, I was like, okay, I'll check out the first episode.
All right, I'm gonna find it.
I don't even know what's going on yet.
They don't explain anything.
Like, I have no clue what's going on, but it's mesmerizing.
In the second episode, so like one of the conceits is that there's a secret society of Shadowhunters, and they fight all the monsters. Who cares? They have this thing where they all have runes like tattooed or burned onto their bodies, and that gives them various magical powers. Like vampires can't see him, or they're immune to glamours, or whatever. And there's this one guy who knows all the exposition they need, but he's got a rune that hurts him if he gives out exposition. It literally pains this show to give you exposition. Wow. It's incredible.
Wow.
I love it.
So Shadowhunters.
So Shadowhunters, I'm super stoked about. I have a whole list, but I don't know if you guys want to.
Yeah, well, like what are the ones? I mean, obviously, we'll all.
All right, fine. Here's a movie I've actually seen. It played at the South by Southwest last year, but it's coming out on February 12th, and that's really soon. And I've seen no publicity for it, so I'm really glad I get to tell people about it. Nina Forever.
Yeah, you wrote about this one on Blumhouse.com. It sounds amazing.
It's fantastic. This is a movie. It's kind of more like a horror fable than a proper horror movie. Yeah. And it opens with a guy and his girlfriend or fiance died about a year ago. And he's just at the point now where he's still sad, but he can get over it and he can move on. And he meets this really awesome girl, and they go on a date, and it's going very, very well. And then they start having sex. And at that point, his dead girlfriend hellraisers out of the bed, blood, guts, viscera, everything. And she just sort of lies there. She just sort of lies there judging them, and this happens every time they have sex. They try everything they can possibly do to like put her soul to rest, all this kind of stuff. Nothing works. And it is sad, and it is heartbreaking, and it's really just a metaphor for how difficult it is to get over something like
Here's
that.
A picture
yeah, no, I saw pictures from it a while ago, and it looked good to me.
This is the image that, the image that I keep seeing online. That I was like, what is that?
It's a little that seems like a little misleading. It looks like that's the corpse. That's not even the corpse. But this movie completely surprised me. I think it's beautifully acted. I think it's about something significant, and I think it uses the horror genre in an interesting way. Usually, a romantic plot in a horror movie is either kind of token or it is subverted in some way, and that is horrifying. My boyfriend's a serial killer. Oh man, probably shouldn't have got that wolf. So this is something that uses the horror genre in an interesting, beautiful fantasy sort of way, and I think we're better off for having this movie in our lives, and I really hope everyone sees it because it's great.
And it's in February. It's coming.
February 12th. It's coming out. I think it's one of those limited release VOD things.
Okay. Now, have you seen Pride and Prejudice and Zombies?
That screened while I was at Sundance. I'm seeing it like Tuesday before it comes out.
Yeah,
I really
I'm
wanted to see
supposed to go to a screening of it
completely
next
forgot
week.
they made a movie out of it.
Yeah.
And I saw the trailer. I was like, oh, cool.
They were trying for so long. Like David O. Russell was going to direct it with Natalie Portman for a while. And I remember I heard the title of the book back when the book became a thing in 2010 or whenever it came out. And I thought to myself, that's kind of funny. And then I idly picked it up and I started reading it, and it's literally just Pride and Prejudice, and every once in a while they'd fight zombies. Like it's word for word.
Yeah.
And I got so bored with the zombies, I put it down and reread Pride and Prejudice because that's one of my favorite books. So I still think the idea was fun. It's from the guy who wrote Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
Yeah.
A movie I liked. It's dumb, but it's fun.
But here's the thing, because I remember I interviewed him for when he was promoting Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, the book.
Seth Grahame-Smith.
Yeah. And I asked him, I was like, what are you doing next? He's like, I'm doing Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. And I laughed. And that's the thing. It's like you hear these titles, they sound goofy. You can't possibly take them seriously. Now, because I love 3D movies and home entertainment, I own Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. That movie is way more serious than it has any right being.
That's what makes it funny.
And I watched this trailer to Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, and I'm like, they're taking this really way too seriously.
That's the joke, though. I think if this was pure joke, here's the thing. And my podcast co-host, Whitney Seibold, has a theory that pitches that used to be rejected from Saturday Night Live are now becoming big-budget feature films. And this is one of them. Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, that's a sketch.
Yeah.
That's not a movie.
Yeah.
They made the movie. Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, they made the movie, and the joke is the romance is real serious. The whole vampire thing is a metaphor for slavery, and you really have to sort of deal with it. But then, like, Abraham Lincoln's jumping on stampeding horses, and vampires are throwing horses at him.
That's great.
It is great.
That is great, especially in 3D.
It's really, really fun. I had a great time with it, but it's really stupid. And I think there's this critical fallacy where I think a lot of critics were like really hard on Vampire Hunter, Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, because it was exactly what it promised. It's like, this movie's stupid. It's called Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. It was never not going to be stupid. The question is it fun? Because that's all that movie could ever really be. And it was. So I'm interested in Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies. I think there's something to be done there. I think in movie form it might be more palatable than it was in the book, because the book I found tedious. Like a good
I wonder
idea,
when I see that, though, I wonder who the target is. Is it female, young? Is it are guys going to go to a movie about that? Like, are young 14, 15-year-old guys going to go? I don't think so.
Well, the marketing stuff that I've seen so far, it seems to be playing it as a romance film. And I mean, this is
it is a romance film.
Yeah, this is just the stuff that like they've been sending press, and the way that the trailer's presenting itself. But it seems more like it's gearing itself towards women as a romance film, which is bizarre.
About 2, maybe 3 years ago, the movie Warm Bodies came out, and I actually really liked that movie a lot. But that was a zombie romance movie that actually did rather well over Valentine's Day. You notice this is coming out at a very specific
Twilight
time.
was right post-Twilight, yeah.
This is a movie like all Pride and Prejudice is, and I haven't seen it yet, so I don't know if it's any good, but inherently it's a story with strong female protagonists. And there's an increasing market for that. I'm glad we're getting that. And the horror genre has never had a dearth of strong female protagonists. It's always been in there, which is really, really great. But here they're going into the horror action milieu. But when you combine that with comedy, horror comedies don't tend to do very well at the box office. Anyway, they find their audience, but if you spend more than a couple million on it, you're probably not going to make it back.
Yeah.
So I would never have greenlit this. I would have said, that's funny. We're not doing that. Mm-hmm. But they're doing it, and now we're going to get it, and I hope it's good.
Yeah. Interesting to see.
You didn't see Carnage Park then?
That screened after I left. I tried to get an online screener. I heard good things too.
Heard really good things about it.
Tried to get an online screener. They wouldn't accommodate, which is their prerogative, obviously. I'm mildly curious about 10 Cloverfield Lane, which looks like some movie about a family stuck in a bomb shelter that they tacked the title Cloverfield onto. But maybe it has. I heard it probably has something to do with Cloverfield, but it's kind of tangential. So.
What about The Green Room? That one looks awesome.
That does look awesome. Patrick Stewart as a neo-Nazi trying to kill the band that played his bar.
That's easily my number one for the year that I want to see.
Really?
Yeah. Because I loved Blue Ruin, his previous film.
Yeah,
it was good.
Jeremy, I can't say his last name.
I think it played last night at Sundance. It's the end of its run on festivals because they had already done the festival.
Yeah.
And people who've seen it just say it's the most tense movie they've seen in years. You know?
We ran a review from the Toronto International Film Festival by Ingu Kang. I didn't get to see it. She liked it okay.
Yeah.
She's not a huge horror fan though, so maybe it wasn't for her. But she liked it fine. Okay. So I know her taste, and that's
what
good.
about the continuing franchises? Because that's always interesting. Like reboots. We have a new vision of Leatherface. We have Rings. Instead of Ring, where we're coming back to that. Which are any of the reboots or Amityville reboots
Conjuring 2.
Are you most interested in?
I am excited about like 3.
Okay.
I am excited about Amityville: The Awakening because it looks tawdry as shit, and that's where the Amityville franchise lives. I am
like part 2.
Yeah, I am excited about the new Ghostbusters because I think that is going to be Hollywood's big litmus test for whether or not women can open a big movie. They can. We know that women can open a comedy. You know, like Bridesmaids.
But isn't that just Bridesmaids? Isn't that just Bridesmaids with ghosts? Isn't that?
Well, I hope not.
I'm
not
sure
the
that's
idea.
how it's going to be critically reviewed, but I'm hoping it's not.
Well,
I hope that they
yeah.
actually give it. I mean, Bridesmaids has substance, but the substance was all about being a woman.
Yeah.
And, relationships.
We had
like
Paul
that.
Feig on my podcast last year when he was just about to start shooting it, and he seemed really excited. He seemed like he was really going to take it seriously. So, but we really haven't seen anything yet. So. We'll all start reserving judgment, but I really hope that people don't go, oh, they ruined Ghostbusters like they did with Gem and the Holograms, which I liked and no one fucking saw.
I liked Gem and the Holograms.
It's
It's
cute.
not Gem and the Holograms,
No.
but it's an adorable movie.
I'm a fan of the cartoon series Gem and the Holograms. It would be a really dumb, unmarketable movie if they did it faithfully. The only people who would have gone to see the Gem and the Holograms movie that Gem and the Holograms fans started a hate campaign for would be those fans.
No,
Everyone else would stay away in droves.
I said the same thing. As soon as Synergy shows up flying and squeezing her earring to make like a supernatural dinosaur appear, which chases everyone away from the concert. I mean, if you actually go back and watch the old episodes,
it's really dumb.
they're really not the greatest. It was all about making these holograms to like tweak reality.
Just
and
lost
as
3
soon as-
listeners.
Yeah, I know.
4 listeners.
It's very
5
sad.
listeners.
Back to horror.
6 listeners. 7 listeners gone.
Well, screw all of them,
Gem
I say. The other sequel that I'm super duper looking forward to, and it only just got announced, is of course Boo, a Medea Halloween.
Medea Halloween.
Did you not read? Do you not read my horror
Oh
rundowns?
no! I proofed
There
that
goes-
one.
There goes
But-
15 more listeners.
Oh, I hate Medea. I
man.
can't watch that stuff.
I know,
Yeah.
but here's the thing. That's going to suck in a very special way. That's going to be incredible. That could be like Ernest Scared Stupid, like 2, when it got even dumber. Like, that's what I'm looking forward to. And it's got Bella Thorne, who's also in Amityville: The Awakening. And I'm
She
just
has
like, Bella.
crazy amounts of Twitter followers and
She
Facebook
does.
followers.
She does. And she keeps gravitating towards crap. I don't know if you saw Blended, the Drew Barrymore, Adam Sandler movie.
Yeah, I missed that one.
She's always the best thing in crap.
Uh-huh.
So I'm just like, oh, God, now she's doing Medea. You don't have to do that. No one has to do that. But apparently Medea is actually going to fight real monsters.
They make
Wow.
money.
Which
They
makes
make
me
the money.
happy.
They keep making them.
No,
They
what
do.
about like Lights Out?
I love the short for Lights Out.
Yeah,
Great
it's
short film. Yeah.
If anyone hasn't seen it, it's a story of a woman in like her apartment, and every time she turns the lights out, there's like a demon that can move around, but if the lights are on, it can't. And it's a movie, and they recently moved it to a big primo summer opening, which is basically them saying, we really hope this will work because Deliver Us from Evil sure didn't, and Ooh, okay, well, I guess they just had a dead space in those couple of weeks. But I hope it's really, really great because it's a scary concept. It's a really scary short. The last shot is like, so that's cool. That is actually on my little listy poo.
And what about Conjuring 2?
What about Conjuring 2?
I can't wait for it. To be
Yeah.
honest,
Really?
I thought that was a really strong trailer. Yeah, I love the first one. I really
love
do.
the first one too. I don't want to see the serialized stories of those characters because I liked that first film, and I'm worried that if we start seeing them do this thing over and over and over and over again, it's going to lose its energy, and I'm not going to feel the threat to those two characters.
I think that for me, it's Annabelle coming out because it's like you see The Conjuring and you're like, that was a really good. I mean, there's nothing unique or original about it, but it's got James' touch.
It's
James
really well
has
made.
a really good touch in terms of executing a really good, solid, scary movie. And then you see Annabelle and you're just like, that wasn't nearly as good.
You
It
can
had
call it
one
a turd.
good segment.
There's one good
Which
segment,
The elevator segment,
Yeah,
which
was great.
directed by James.
Which was
Wan.
directed by James
Which I
Wan.
didn't
Which I don't know
until
if that's
after.
common knowledge, but
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
you guys know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
anyway, so then I see the trailer to the second one, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's and it even has that kind of the way the text scrolls up, which reminds me of the Shining trailer.
Yeah.
Like there's just it hits all my sweet spots, and I'm like, all right, I'm really excited for that. And I don't know, I just get I mean, how can you not get excited to see Patrick Wilson and veer in a movie again like that. So
well, pretty easily. I'm sitting right here. But no, I hope it's good. Like I look at, I was talking to a film critic friend of mine, Tim Grierson, who's excellent, and I was asking him, "What are you looking forward to in the next couple of months?" And he had a great point, and I started adopting it, which is I don't look forward to anything, but I'm curious about stuff. Because once you start anticipating something, then you get those like crazy responses where you hear like a critic didn't like The Dark Knight Rises, and they're like, "You're evil, and I'm going to kill you." And we're just like, whoa, what the hell? Like, you can like it if you want. And then like 3 months later, they decide they hated it, and we get no apologies.
Yeah.
I actually like The Dark Knight Rises, but I got that for Star Trek Into Darkness, which was just crap. So I try not to be too enthusiastic, but I'm very curious about it, and I hope it's really good. I like James Wan as a director.
Yeah.
I wish he'd made his MacGyver movie.
Oh, I know.
He was going to make a MacGyver movie, but then he was like, I'll do Furious 7. And I'm just like, oh, that was cursed. So, yeah.
What about Neon Demon?
I don't really know a lot about
I know nothing about except Keanu's in a Refn film, and it's a horror film.
Is it really a horror film, though? Because we were told...
His kind of horror film, right?
Yeah, we were told his last film was going to be like a Fight Club movie, and it wasn't.
Right.
And it was... I'm sorry, it's really bad.
Yeah, it doesn't really work.
No, it really doesn't. I'm a fan of his. It's just that's like the one movie he did that totally sucks.
Well, I think there's that documentary about it where he's really trying to go in opposition to Drive, which was successful and popular. So he's trying to do all the things in opposition to it, which is exactly what hurts the film.
Yeah, exactly. So I know nothing about it. I hope it's really, really great. We haven't seen anything from this, but I'm interested to see what Tim Burton does with Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. Which is based on a hit novel series. And I read the first book. Strike that. I read the first half of the first book, then I put it down because the pacing died. But the first half was really spooky and creepy, and it was about this kid and his grandfather was at a home in World War II sitting out the war with a bunch of children who had peculiar deformities or powers, and they were being like attacked by like monsters in the night, and he grew up to realize, oh, that's crazy, and then monsters kill his grandfather, and he goes back to try to find out what's going on. And then once he starts finding out what's going on, like the book like is just chapter after chapter of exposition, and I stopped caring. So I don't know what happens after that, but I know I like the setup, and I know that Tim Burton has no idea what a good script is. So if they gave him a good script, he'll direct a good movie, and they give him a bad script, this movie's going to suck. But I'm very curious to see what he's going to do with it, because who doesn't like Tim Burton?
Yeah.
When he's not doing big remakes.
When he's not, his Alice movie was execrable. I think would be a good word to
Did he direct Alice 2? I didn't even know there was an Alice 2 coming out.
Alice 2 is James Bobin, who did Muppets Most Wanted.
Oh.
I think it was Muppets Most Wanted. He did one of the Muppet movies.
Now, I'm so sticking to my anti-trailer thing that I'm sitting in The Boy yesterday with Matt Curry Holmes last night, and The Witch trailer comes on, so it's getting a big push. And I closed my eyes, which I don't usually do, but this one I want to know nothing. I've seen one still. And I closed my eyes, and I can honestly say I did not understand a fucking thing. That like I'm orally, you get no clues what the fuck this movie's about.
I'm sure
like,
that it's just sounds.
Matt literally said they show the entire movie in the trailer, and I'm sitting there going, I have no idea what they did, because all I'm just hearing is weird things, and there's a goat and Black Phillip, and I don't know, a bunch of
the goat's amazing.
It's a very esoteric trailer. Like they're trying to like do the J.J. Abrams thing where they don't tell anything about it, and sometimes that works and sometimes it's a pain in the ass, but it looks good. I
can't wait. I'm really excited.
Okay, I missed that at every film festival I've been to, and I'm really super excited I finally get to see it. That's another one that was like, hey, we're screening it this weekend. I'm like, I'm at Sundance.
Yeah.
You showed this movie at Sundance. You know Sundance exists.
Yeah.
And yet, here we are. So
the ones that have been kind of universal praise The Witch, and the other one I hear, only good things, is the Invitation. Karen Kusuma's new film. So I'm really curious to see what that is.
I interviewed her at South by Southwest about it, and sadly I had to do it without having seen the film because whatever, but she seemed really excited about it, and I'd heard mixed things, but the mixed things I heard, like the things of people who didn't like it, sounds like people who are dumb. So I don't I have a saying, if I trusted other people's opinions, I wouldn't be a critic. So I'll see it for myself, and I really hope it's good, because I really want Karen Kusama to like be vindicated after the debacle that was Aeon Flux.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm trying to think of a geek adaptation that missed the point more than Aeon Flux, and I'm floundering. Maybe Avatar: The Last Airbender, like the Avatar movie.
Right.
Like that's maybe the only other one that got it like exact opposite of why you should have even made the film.
Right.
Yeah. So I hope now that she's back doing smaller films, I hope she's kicks ass because I hope it's great.
Now, what have you heard about Rings so far?
Absolutely nothing.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've heard nothing.
I hope it's like Aliens, where like now they're like on this planet of ghost children.
I have heard that it's going
planet.
Yeah.
I've heard it's going to go teen. It's going away from Naomi and going to a group of teens reinventing the mythos. That's all.
That sounds awful.
And 3D.
That sounds extra
Ooh,
awful.
Yeah.
Wow.
No.
So, well, no, Naomi
Pandering
Watts
to the
will be a
Ouija
teen
crowd.
in it, so she'll.
What Ouija crowd?
I heard Ouija 2 is going to be good, right?
Yeah,
Ouija made money, but
Ouija made a ton of money.
Ouija made money. Who do you know who saw it and liked it? Because there's a difference between getting people into the theater to see the film and having them leave satisfied enough to want to see a sequel. I know no one who liked that movie enough to wait. I need to see Ouija too.
I always assume it's just because I'm with a different group. Like, I'm with you guys, 30-somethings who are all like old and like they need to make more Return of the Living Dead movies and
I
things
liked
like that.
Jim and the Holograms. That's
So
my
did
response
I.
to that.
But
I liked Earth to Echo.
I need to find like a 17 and 18-year-old that I can ask them, like, do people in your age group think this is cool? Because I'm wondering, like, Ouija obviously had some type of crowd because it made money.
But it's
Wasn't
probably
it-
just opening weekend money, right?
A big part of it was opening weekend money, and also there weren't a lot of horror movies that Halloween.
No, there weren't.
Yeah.
And big advertising. They spend a lot on advertising for those kind of ones.
Yeah, no, I think it's just, hey, you want to see some? I don't know, let's see Ouija.
Yeah,
Like,
I don't think anyone liked it.
I don't know anyone who really, really liked it, and I would think I would have heard. Like, I see people liking things I don't understand on Twitter. Like, there's apparently this guy named Harry Styles that everyone's like, oh, I like this guy. And I'm like, he sounds like a 1970s porn star. I don't know who that is. Yeah. And I feel really old. And I found out today he's a member of some sort of direction band. So that's a thing. That's a young thing. When I was watching Yoga Hosers, I didn't understand half the words that were coming out of the kids' mouths. I had to, like, Urban Dictionary. What is on fleek? What does that even mean?
What is on fleek?
You made that. It's like perfect.
Oh, okay.
Like life's on fleek. Life's perfect right now.
I felt so old because I was watching Law and Order yesterday. Well, I was old for watching Law and Order.
That's part of it, yeah.
But two of the teens texted "RUH" to each other, and I had to sit there on my phone and go, "What the hell does that mean?" And then I looked it up. Are you horny? Yeah. And I was like, oh.
H usually means heroin, though.
No, it was,
in
you
the
horny?
old days, H was always heroin.
I was looking at a documentary, like a little short documentary, and Mark Waid, comic book writer, was talking about how the whole it started out as leet speak. I don't even know what you call it anymore. The idea of these abbreviations and emoticons are actually changing the way we communicate and turning our language back into symbology.
Yeah.
Where you need to, it's like that one Star Trek episode where like they can't speak the aliens' language because they're constantly referencing a book that only they've read. So if you don't know what RUH means, you just said nonsense words. So you need to have this sort of cultural understanding of history in order to have any idea what kids are talking about these days. Kids, am I right?
Yeah. We just lost 4 more viewers.
I'm 33. How did that get so old so fast? Like, culture moves so fast now.
Yeah.
Like, it's really insane. Like, I should not be old, but I'm so old. I'm so old.
We're all older.
We all are.
You're the youngest one on this table.
Yeah,
I
you
tell you
are.
that. Oh, actually, this thing inside her.
Yeah, technically.
Okay. Technically. This thing.
My
This
unborn
emoji
kid.
that's growing inside
He's
her.
already
It's just one big
tweeting
emoji.
before I, yeah.
He's already tweeting and
God,
looking down
emoji
at us.
baby. That's kind of frightening. Oh, well, actually, I want to say Southbound's really fun. I think Southbound, as a whole, there's, it's inconsistent like all anthologies, but at the core, there's a couple really fun stories. Have you seen Southbound?
No, I haven't seen Southbound.
Southbound's a good time. Yeah, I think people enjoy that one.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I like that horror anthologies are coming back into style, and that oddly enough, they're actually pretty consistent. I know that everyone here is very much connected to Tales of Halloween. I'm not, and I watched it, and I was like almost every one of these is great. There's like 2 that kind of suck, but they're fast, so it doesn't matter, and you just move on. And it was just freakishly consistent.
Did you have a favorite storyline?
In different ways. I really liked the first one with Sweet Tooth. I thought
that's my favorite, David Parker.
Yeah, Dave Parker's.
That's that's a story you'd actually hear around a campfire. It feels old, and it's
when I was
great.
watching, I kept thinking, which one would I want to see a feature spawn off from this? And that's definitely felt like that. And the grinning ghost felt like they could be their own story.
For me, I want to see Neil Marshall's Evil Pumpkin movie.
That would be
that'd
fun,
actually be really, really great. Because that was the genius of it, like building up to like this huge dumb bigness.
The big shot of the Halloween 3 type shot with the big factory, and it's pretty fun.
That was really, really fun. But I like horror anthologies. I like that. One of the things I love about the horror genre is that it gets trapped, but only in the mainstream. Like everyone's like, oh, everything's torture porn right now, and I'm like, yeah, if you only watch like the 5 movies that got the widest release this year, there's always interesting stuff happening in the horror genre, because that is
world, the indie
festival
world,
the indie world, whatever. But like this is where people like let out their anxieties, and our anxieties are constantly shifting on a cultural level. You can tell a lot about any generation from the horror movies, especially that are successful, but even just that get made in that era. And so I love watching it change. I love watching it evolve, and I really look forward to discovering new horror movies as they come out.
Which is the fun part, because as we scroll new movie titles, like the ones we're talking about are largely the ones that are associated with franchise, so we know something. But the ones I'm most looking forward to, I'm reading words like Anti-Birth or Trash Fire. We only know because we know Ricky, but I want to see those movies most because I know nothing about them.
Yeah.
I know, it's just a word.
And it's always the indie ones that I'm like, that was just crazy cool, because it takes me by surprise. But we see the same thing on the message boards now, where people are like, everything's supernatural now. I don't get it. And then it's always like, everything's not supernatural. Just don't watch the studio stuff. Or watch the studio stuff, but then
right?
watch
That's a little
other
mixture
things.
of things. You never know.
Oh, it's a little
We
mixture.
want to tell you what's in there. There's some mixture of stuff in there. Ooh.
Okay, now I'm intrigued. Now I will go see.
She
I
never
was gonna
fucks
see
the
it
doll.
before.
I kept saying, fuck the doll, but she never fucks the doll. Fuck the doll. He's anatomically correct. Fuck the doll. But
Are you serious? He's
oh, yeah.
They
Nice.
established that as a plot point?
They don't. I did.
Oh, okay. That's an Elric Kane edition.
Nice. What I love, and I look for this, and you can like set your watch to it. Like every 3 or 4 years, some major publication like Entertainment Weekly will publish like this same recycled garbage think piece about, is the horror genre dead? No.
Oh yeah, that's
You're dumb.
Yeah.
You're very dumb.
Yeah,
One genre has fallen out of favor, and it's still being made anyway.
Yep.
They still make torture
Plus, there's
porn.
still a TV show being made with zombies that's still doing pretty well on air.
Well,
So
Yes, we have a
It'll be
ton
on
of horror
forever.
TV shows coming.
Yeah.
I mean, a
They're
lot of
Exorcist,
stuff.
yeah, they're doing a new Exorcist show, which I don't know what that would be.
The Omen.
The Omen,
Can we-
which actually
Damien?
looks really good.
Yeah.
Supposedly they're doing Friday the 13th, the actual series,
Yeah.
which I hope it's better than Scream. But
That
yeah.
one's been
I've been hearing a
floated
lot about
around
it.
for a couple of years, and I
Yeah.
have to say, like, a lot of people in Hollywood pitched for that one.
I'll
The
bet. For what?
series.
Sure.
Friday the series?
Yeah,
Oh,
Friday
it's-
the series.
I've heard a lot. Yeah.
Like, I think most of the people that we know pitched for that
No, I mean,
at some point.
it's already it's done. It's coming out.
Oh, it's already done?
Yeah.
Like it's a thing.
Oh, wow.
No,
cool.
it's a
Great.
it's a thing. Yes.
Nice.
Great.
For sure.
I what bothered me about when they announced The Exorcist, which is a movie that I like and I admire, but like Rebecca, I prefer Exorcist 3.
As you should.
Because it's awesome.
Yeah.
But what upset me about the press release was, and this might just be them announcing something in a press release that makes it sound more marketable and might not be the show. They describe the show as it's about 2 men. And I'm like, no, it's not. It is. There are men in it, and like arguably Father Karras is one of the protagonists, but it's way more about Ellen Burstyn's character. It's way more about Chris and Regan McNeil. You read the book, Father Karras is way less screen time, if you will, than Chris McNeil. It is a story about a woman whose daughter is sick and no one knows what's wrong with her. It is that's the terrifying thing about the book, is that, you know, it's basically just here's a single mom who is struggling to get by. It's in an era that really still wasn't kind to single moms. She's about to direct her first movie, and that gets put on hold, and she doesn't know where her money is going to come from. It is about motherhood. And then secondarily, I would argue it is about loss of faith. You could maybe say it's one or the other, but like those are right up there. So the idea is going to be like, if it's going to be a buddy cop show, but they're exorcist priests, and it's Father Karras and Father Marin, I don't want to see that.
No.
That sounds dumb.
In fact, I don't want to see anything that's a rehash of what it already was. I want to, if it's going to be called Exorcist, I want to see some new ground covered. Yeah, it just goes to show when they tried to do the Rosemary's Baby miniseries and pile of junk, you know, could watch 2 minutes and go, no, thank you, you know.
I didn't even bother.
Yeah,
like, it
it's
looks
not
so
even,
bad.
It's not worth it.
Yeah, but you know, you could do something with it. I recently published an article at Blumhouse, which was horror movies that should be TV series, and I've done a couple of those. And I also did one that was horror movies that should have sequels and never got them. And one of them was The Devil Inside, a movie that blows, but it was cheap and it made a ton of money. Why wasn't there another one? It's just a story about exorcists who go around exorcising contortionists.
Yeah.
You can totally do a cheap sequel with that and make a ton of money.
And plus,
Where is
it didn't
that?
have an ending.
Yeah, it just stops. It's so lazy.
Yeah.
And that guy went to direct The Boy.
Yeah, The Boy.
Is that him?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
William Brent Bell, who also directed. Okay, so I've got a new thing I'm writing for Blumhouse, and I got delayed because of Sundance. But I've been watching a lot of really bad horror movies lately, and I started with Plan 9 from Outer Space, and then I watched William Brent Bell's Stay Alive, which is worse than Plan 9 from Outer Space.
That's the video game one, right?
Yes.
Okay.
This movie is ungodly terrible. Like, this is the idea was. I'll tell you the fundamental.
Let's get him on the show for The Boy. We got to.
That's fine.
About The Boy.
But like, I hear The Boy is
that
great.
movie Where?
Yeah.
You know, the WER movie.
Which a lot of people have said is not bad.
Yeah. But Stay Alive is fundamentally problematic from the very premise, which is you die in the video game, that's how you die in real life. And I'm like, I want to see a prequel where they beta tested that.
Yeah.
This is a real game. Like at the end of the movie, you see it distributed. And I'm just like, yeah, Trevor died by being hung in the video game, but in real life, he died from getting stabbed in the head. That's a bug. We got to fix that. Yeah. Like none of it works. And there's like, they try to make video games scary. And video games can be scary.
Yeah, but it never works as a movie thing.
Here's one of the things they did. And they did this in like the mid 2000s. This wasn't like early in like the next gen of video game. There's a bit where they're playing this horror video game. It's like, oh, this is so scary. And then the controller vibrates. And they're like, ah! And I'm like, you mean the thing it does like every 5 seconds? Like you've never played. There's a scene where Frankie Muniz, who's about to play a video game, he sits down on a couch and he starts miming playing a video game to like work out. And I'm just like, this movie was made by people who've never played a video game. It's also made by people who've never like read about Elizabeth Bathory.
Because that was the confusing part is that gave the actual video game a mythos. It wasn't just like something like Silent Hill where you're just walking around looking at creepy shit. It was Elizabeth Bathory.
Elizabeth Bathory, who was I forget the exact era, but you know, she was in Europe and she killed women and she bathed in their blood. And in Stay Alive, she was a plantation owner in like Louisiana. And I'm like, that's not an obscure person. That's like, if you know anything about the horror genre and that's your target demo, they know that that's crap. You could have just made someone up and it would have been fine. And I'm not entirely
like
distracted.
Papa Justified from
what
movie is that with
the Skeleton Key?
I love Papa Justified.
Skeleton Key.
He's a great character.
Yeah, it's a fun movie. But like,
Papa Justified.
Papa Justified.
Make it up. We don't care, but don't like make it. It also like it combines the supernatural with what has to be science fiction because it's a game that's been like imbued with its technology, and the rules are never clear, and it's dumb and terrible, and God, I love hating it. I really love hating this movie because it's not just a movie about an evil video game, it's a movie about an evil video game culture, and they know nothing about it. It's so great. They never do that anymore. You would actually ask people now. You would actually ask people like, hey, what's it like playing a video game? Well, I can tell you. But this was made in that one little pocket where like adults still weren't playing video games. And they were just like, I don't know. I saw my kid play a video game once. I can do something with that. It's just awful.
And this is the guy who went on to do The Boy?
The Boy.
All right, we're going to get him on the show. We have to talk to him.
Yeah, we got to talk to this guy.
Because we like The Boy.
Sure.
I haven't seen it yet, but I heard it's great.
I've heard it's great, too.
Yeah.
We can ask him what happened in the ending of Devil Inside.
Oh, yeah.
Was there supposed to be an ending, or was it always just a website? So
were you supposed to go to a website? Is that what
it directs you?
At the end.
Fuck off.
It's like
That's
for
what I
more
said when it ended.
information, and then it pops up a website.
I was so angry when I saw it. I remember just going, that's not even a movie anymore, you know?
Yeah.
I saw that one in the theater, and it wasn't even like a press screening or anything. Like I paid to go see it because it had this like freaky looking nun on the poster, and I was like, okay, this looks like my movie. And then I go, and it's like not even.
Hey, we're going to get him on the show and beat the shit out of him.
I think it had the best.
Hey, William Bibbiani, you owe me for the end.
If it's the movie I'm thinking of, I think it had the best viral video of all time.
Yeah, it was huge.
The Devil Baby? Was that what it was? That
Everyone likes
viral
Devil
Oh,
Baby.
that was from that wasn't Devil Inside. That
Devil's
was the one that
Devil's
Fox
Due. Devil's Due.
Devil's Due.
But no,
That's
that
it.
one had a major viral campaign too. I think there was the one where the woman went into a coffee shop or something and levitated or something. It was definitely a big.
The Devil
That's the
Inside.
Carrie remake.
I don't even remember. Okay, there was one, and I thought it might have been for The Devil Inside, but I could be wrong. Where it was a girl on
I forgot
chat
Devil's Due
roulette.
existed.
I remember one viral for a horror film that I have to look up now, where it was a girl on chat roulette, and she would like get guys on chat roulette and then start undressing, and then her face would contort into a demon, and that was one of the viral videos. And now I'm googling it. 'cause
That's
I have to
mildly
figure it out.
amusing.
It was a really good viral video.
Okay.
I was teaching at the time, and I even showed it to my students as like, oh, this is a great example of film marketing. This is how you do it.
I get in constant arguments with people about viral videos because I keep getting, all these press releases like, we've got this viral video for you. I'm like, no, you don't. It hasn't gone viral yet.
Yeah.
You have a video that you hope goes viral. Yeah. I don't mind that, but like at least let's make words mean things still.
Yeah.
Really pisses me off.
Yeah.
The chat. I'm sorry, wrong Exorcist. The chat roulette thing was for Last Exorcism.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Which wasn't terrible.
Love the Last. I think the first Last Exorcism was great.
Yeah, actually, the ending kind of a little wonky for me, but I liked it.
It was a little too cute, like a little too like, oh, this is how this has to end. But I actually kind of liked the sequel a little bit too. I thought it got a little bit of a bum rap because I liked seeing. I always wonder what happens at the end of a horror movie when everyone kind of like the cops show up and we have to explain the whole werewolf thing, and and I just keep picturing like there's going to be this insane asylum full of people who survived horror movies and no one believes them.
The Arkham thing, yeah.
Or just the insane asylum from Nightmare on Elm, Freddy vs. Jason.
Yeah.
It's just like, and here we see, she's traumatized. That was bad.
Yeah.
That was like the whole movie was almost like a serious drama for most of it. And I was kind of digging it because I think Ashley Bell's a really good actress.
Yeah, she is good. And she's in
Carnage Park.
Carnage Park, yeah. Which
nice.
Premiered at Sundance.
I need to see that one. Everyone keeps talking about it.
Yeah.
That's one of the most tweeted ones I saw.
Well, they haven't finished all the screenings yet, right? So we're still in the middle.
As of today is Wednesday. There's still screenings through Friday, but I think it's pretty much everything's premiered by now.
Yeah,
there might be one left, but I think it's usually like a closing night film. But usually the Sundance opening and closing night movies are really unremarkable.
Yeah,
for whatever reason.
What opened this year?
Opened this year. There were two films that opened. Well, there was a documentary on Norman Lear I didn't see, and then there were two films, dramatic films. One was called Belgica, which is from the guy who did the Broken Circle Breakdown, which is nominated for Best Foreign Film a couple of years ago, and that movie's great. And Belgica sucks, but it has a great soundtrack. And it's about these two brothers who open a bar in Belgium, and the bar is really, really awesome, but then they succumb because there's drug use and infidelity, and it gets really trite. And then the other one was
werewolves.
The other one, no werewolves, and the other one was a basically it's like a Sundance mixtape movie because it's got like every element from a Sundance movie. You got a gay writer who moves back in with his parents because his mom has terminal cancer.
I was going to say, who has cancer?
Yeah, his mom, Molly Shannon, has cancer.
Oh,
and I'll say this: Molly Shannon's really, really great in it. But it's kind of another thing where Elric was talking about who do you market it to, and I don't know who I can recommend the movie to because I cried, but I cried because the movie basically made me relive the death of my dad from cancer. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, it's technically it's good. Who do I recommend that to? Yeah. Hey, you want to relive your dad's death through cancer, or you want to like know what it's going to be like when your parents die slowly? Yeah. You want to know if this be deluged with that for an hour and a half? Well, see other people. Yeah. Like I don't know what I can do, but if that's your jam. I find that there's like two kinds of people generally. People who, when they're sad, they listen to sad music. Yeah. And people who, when they're sad, they listen to happy music. And I'm the second type. Yeah. I don't want to feel sad. I'm sad enough as it is. Yeah. I would like to at least, have something cheerful going on. Yeah. So I'll put on the Xanadu soundtrack or something. And
yes, God bless Xanadu. Yes. Rob and I are huge fans.
We got some dancing to do.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. And yet still you haven't seen Rockula.
I have not seen Rockula, and I even bought the VHS tape because William kept telling me I needed to see Rockula, and I have not seen it.
Everything I know about you as a person means you would love Rockula. Someone out there is wondering what the heck Rockula is.
I'm about to have like a couple weeks of maternity leave. I will watch Rockula.
You have time to watch Rockula over and over. I couldn't believe it. They actually screened Rockula at the New Beverly a few years ago, and Dean Cameron was there. Yeah. And I brought my Laserdisc of Rockula for him to sign, and he was like, only two people on the planet own this Laserdisc, and it's you and Penn Jillette. I was like, that's awesome. For those who don't know, Rockula is I think it was made in 1989, but it didn't come out until like 1991. It is a rock musical about Dean Cameron as like a 200-year-old virgin vampire, and every 22 years like the love of his life is reincarnated, and then he meets her, and then 2 weeks later she's killed by a pirate wearing a rhinestone peg leg, and he kills her with a ham bone, and this happens every 22 years. Meanwhile, his mom is played by Toni Basil, And she's constantly like fucking like weightlifters and little people and everything. And he's really uncomfortable because he's still a virgin. And then
I thought this was a kid's movie.
Sounds like a general.
kind of is, but we don't actually see it. It's just kind of naughty.
Santa Sangre light.
Yeah, and then BB King is like in his band, and there's a part where he wears a bumblebee suit. He starts a band called Rockula, and they all sing like vampire themed 80s tunes. And Thomas Dolby is in it, and it's great. It's one of the best things ever. I think it's on Amazon Prime. It's like instant streaming. It was like this last Halloween when I watched it again, and it is wonderful. And if you haven't seen it, it will change your life for the better, and you can hug me the next time you see me.
That's your endorsement for the night.
Wow, guys.
Yeah.
Can
Find me
we
and
do
hug
better
me.
than Rockula?
I don't think
No.
so. I think that's the penultimate.
Okay, guys.
Because otherwise you're going to have a baby and he's going to fall asleep if we're not careful.
I'm fine. I'm talking about Rockula. I'm really awake now. I'm good.
Wow.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Amazon Video.
There it is. It's
Good.
streaming on Amazon
Beautiful.
Prime.
Yeah. Watch it.
Wow.
Love it. Live
Okay,
it.
Rockula.
You guys
You're
got
welcome.
any other that you're looking forward to this year?
I think that kind of sums it up. Did we do Leatherhead or Leather?
We didn't talk
Leatherhead?
about Leatherface.
Leatherface.
I mean, it's really
Yeah.
only the directors that make that compelling, like interesting to see what they'll do with it. The actual concept doesn't really excite me.
Who is it? The directors of
Inside,
right?
doing, you know, but it's
know,
a
it's
childhood thing, so it's like, oh fuck, who cares?
Oh, what weirds me out is that Stephen Dorff.
Yeah,
is playing
Stephen Dorff got
Leatherface.
added.
And a part
Is
of me
he?
is
What?
like, yeah,
What? That
and a
makes
part
no
of me
sense.
is like, okay, is that a good get for them or is that a bad get for Stephen Dorff? Like, I don't know
Yeah,
if this
where
is
his career's at, yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Like, I was watching. I did a thing on my podcast because I was in a car accident in October and I was kind of convalescing for a few months. And the Hallmark Movie Channel for like all of November and December is wall-to-wall cheesy Christmas movies. So I did a segment on my podcast called Hallmark Moments because I watched like 8 Hallmark Christmas movies a week. And there was one of them that had Dermot Mulroney in it. And I was like, is Dermot Mulroney fallen that low? Like, is that like, because this is a really good get for them and a really bad get for Dermot Mulroney.
Oh, yeah, he was in The Grey. He was great in The Grey.
Yeah, he's great in The Grey. He was Insidious Chapter 3 wasn't the best Insidious movie, but he's really good. Yeah, he's fine.
good in it.
Yeah, I actually kind of like that movie. But so it was just weird, and it's just you watch these like stars kind of rise and fall because there was that time when Kevin Costner was doing like straight to video horror movies, and then Man of Steel shot him back up again, and then he was able to do 3 Days to Kill, a movie only I like. So it happens, and it's strange.
Yeah, Dorff's
It's
always hard to know where he falls. I mean, I love Cecil B. Demented. He's funny in that.
Yeah.
And he was in Sofia Coppola's film. He's pretty good in that.
I don't like the movie, but he's really
he's
good
in it.
Yeah,
Lily Taylor's in Leatherface. I like her a lot.
Yeah.
sure. She's always
Interesting
good.
cast. Yeah, you know what it is? It's like, the directors, whatever. I mean, they were supposed to do a Halloween. They were supposed to do Halloween 2 before Rob Zombie came back to do it. But I keep hearing a lot of good things, at least like from writer friends about the script. And really, at the end of the day, it's like that to me is like, I don't know, how would you do an impressive Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie at this point?
I don't know.
The thing I didn't like about Texas Chainsaw 3D is, I mean, among many things, because initially I watched it, I was like, oh, I guess that's all right. But then the more I thought about it,
it doesn't survive thinking, but I actually enjoy watching that
Yeah,
movie.
I
Because there's a
didn't-
lot of really fun stuff in that movie.
that's the
I didn't
best
think
way
it
to
was
think.
that bad.
It doesn't survive thinking. It's perfect. No, but it's hard to. The thing that's missing from it is that Leatherface is not part of a family unit. I think that like the ensemble aspect of the Texas Chainsaw movies is what makes the first couple stand out as much as it does. So it's
Yeah.
like,
I would argue that
know.
only the first 2 Texas Chainsaws were actually all that good. There's good stuff too in the other ones, but
Well, if 3 had the gore, I'd argue that it's a good film. If the gore was still in it, because we've seen the version with the gore still in it more or less, and I think it's a fun movie.
Yeah.
Leatherface.
I think Matthew McConaughey is a lot of fun in
That's
the new
4.
generation, and the movie is terrible, but there's something to enjoy in it. And the Platinum Dunes movies look okay, but they're terrible because they kept in the original intro by John Larroquette, where he specifies. I don't have it in front of me. He says, like, this family killed, I think, like 13 people between like 1971 and like 1980 or whatever. And then if you actually count how many people they kill in those movies, they're done.
Yeah.
They kill like one other person that entire decade.
Yeah.
That franchise was over. They just killed it. They weren't paying attention. How do you do that?
Yeah.
So I don't know what you do. I think the Texas Chainsaw, I wonder if it's... the title has value, so of course you want to do something, but I don't know what you do with that. Whereas I know what you do with Friday the 13th. Throw $4 million at someone, say make it fast, cheap, put some good kills and boobs in it, and then we get it out there. It should not take that long to make a Friday the 13th.
No, they're spending. It's been way too overthought. They're making it way too deliberate, where they're looking for this perfect catalyst that's going to launch him back into everybody's
I'm going to
world.
say it right now. I like several of the Friday the 13th movies. They're not very good. Like 2 is solid. I like 6. There's stuff to recommend about the other ones, and I love Jason X and Freddy vs. Jason.
I'm kind of excited about the Friday the 13th video game that's coming up. I know none of you guys are gamers, but
I remember the original, and it was so bad.
Oh yeah, no, he's not purple and green in this one.
Well, I also just remember the whole thing was you were a camper, and it was on like an NES, and you were just sort of running around the park. By running, I mean trudging slowly because it was an NES. And you had to try to find Jason before he killed people. It was impossible. Like the map system didn't work.
That summed up most of the NES games. Like Jaws had the same plot, just you were on a boat. So yeah, but the new video game actually looks pretty good.
That's cool. I'm down.
It's Jason, so
yay!
Yeah.
Lots to look forward to. Lots of horror.
Excellent.
Yay!
Hopefully, some of it good. Hopefully some of the studio stuff will be good this year. I thought last year was particularly bad for me, Stu. I didn't
trying to remember what even came out last.
You know what I liked? Last year, the Quiet Ones.
Last year was Quiet Ones was the year before that. I actually kind of dug the Quiet Ones. I was like the only one because I was like because my thing was this. My thing was this. That movie is stealthily a different movie, and like you're watching this, I'm like it's kind of just this middling supernatural thriller, and then you find out it's actually a mad scientist movie, and I'm like, oh, this is actually kind of fun. And Jared Harris is just going nuts, and it's fun. But then again, I have weird taste in things. I think the only horror movies, what I like this year, I like The Voices. No one else even noticed that even came out. I thought it was brilliant. I like Goosebumps because that was really fun and charming.
I still haven't seen that. I'm looking forward to that. That just had VOD this week.
Yeah. That was like one of my in my top 10 from last year.
Yeah, it's a fun movie. Like I got nothing against that.
I know something that the world's looking forward to. A new film by Jeremy Gardner.
Doesn't he have 2 this year?
Should be 2.
You know, it'd be cool if they could see that for free.
You can.
You can?
Yes.
Or do you have to? Does it have to hit a certain mark for us to be able to see it for free?
Yes. You could actually go with the pitch a little bit better if you want.
Tell the people
I'm
what you know.
Here, kids.
Well, I mean, it's not a
right?
It's not a horror movie. It's a comedy.
Yeah, but it's Jeremy Gardner.
The whole gang from The Battery did.
Look, if this does well, he'll make a Battery too. Just face it. That's the underlining shit that's going on.
Well, I'm trying to understand. Did you watch the video and see their whole pitch? Because
I haven't yet. I was going to today.
The film is done, and essentially they want to put it out for free on all avenues so that you could see it. What they're asking for is kind of like they want to hit. They want to hit him out a certain amount of money to make another film, to be able to take off from work for several weeks and make another movie, because the distribution model and the way that people make money off movies is just so broken right now.
It's like music or something.
You know, we all recommended The Battery. We had Jeremy on here. Everybody probably bought it for $5 off him. It's
assuming they bought it.
Yeah, assuming you bought it.
That's the thing. The honor system is a dangerous thing right now because everyone sees the internet as this free gimme machine.
Yeah,
you know, I mean, it's destroying the porn industry.
Yeah,
and you know, because we're gonna get to the point now where like all new porn is actually just old porn that only just got digitized. Like, there's no money in it right now. So. And I think it's happening with other films as well. And yeah, it's going to get to the point where the only movies that get made are super duper mega cheap or super duper mega expensive, and you have to see them at a theater.
Yeah.
And that's scary. And buy your movies.
Yeah.
Buy them in physical copies, because I'm telling you, someday we're going to get hit with an EMP or something, and all of those movies you bought off Amazon no longer exist.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen the end of Escape from LA. Yeah. He pushes the button and turns it off.
No, but Jeremy is very right on that. Just a couple of weeks ago when they announced that Dave and I were working on a feature, it was in Variety, and it was just like a small little blurb. But all of a sudden, one of my relatives emails me and is like, so I guess you're going to be quitting your day job now. And we were like laughing out loud at this. We were like, are you fucking kidding me?
Because you're paying to make a movie and then hoping that you almost break even.
Yeah.
That's the reality thing, and you largely won't break even.
There's like,
so what the fuck is it?
There's just enough small indies that break out every year or two
to keep
that
it buoyant.
It's like the same philosophy that has people like getting really gussied up and walking down like Hollywood Boulevard just in case they get noticed.
Yeah.
It's happened like 5 times in the course of human history.
You know,
Charlize Theron, Natalie Portman was discovered at a pizza parlor.
Yeah,
it has happened, and it's a lie.
Yeah.
You know, they prove that it doesn't happen because it's a story when it happens. It's crazy. So I guess my message here is don't make movies.
Go fight a wolf.
Settle
down. Get a wolf.
No, you shouldn't get a wolf.
Married.
No
But
wolf.
it looks like Jeremy Gardner could survive wolves in this movie. That's what it looked like to me.
I'll
watch anything those guys make. They make it with a lot of heart, and so I want.
Yeah.
And between that and also Trash Fire, which is exciting. Ricky Bates, who's been on the show, proposed to his girlfriend.
Googler in it again.
His girlfriend at Sundance. He made a film that's getting good reviews. It's great to see. So there's some hope out there. You know, it's worth celebrating. So.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'll investigate more of Jeremy's pitch because I didn't have time to read it all today, and try to.
I posted it on our page, both our Facebook and our Twitter. So if you like that battery, kick in a couple of bucks so they can make another movie.
Heck
Plain and simple, and then we'll get this one for free.
Good plan.
I like it.
It's a good deal.
Let's do it.
Yay.
Awesome.
And save porn while you're at it.
Right?
Well, and save porn. Well, guys, I don't
Yeah,
know
you're gonna have
if
a baby
I'm
pretty
going to
soon.
be
I know.
back next week.
We'll
I'm
see
It's
about
not a
I'm
that.
like
guarantee.
a ticking bomb right now.
I'll come back.
Yeah,
I'll be
you're right.
So,
I'll be your Rebekah.
Our
You'll
new
be Rebekah.
co-host.
Can you be perky and talk about shark films? And, yeah.
Sure.
That's kind of my MO.
I've seen Tintorera Tiger Shark.
Oh, that is a good one.
You and Steve Scarlatta.
Yeah,
It's like a
Steven
nut.
Scarlatta. So,
Covered in Shark
but if
Exploitation.
I'm not back, I will miss you guys, and I will be back very soon because I'm not one to take a long maternity leave. I
Yes,
get bored.
this is true.
So
We'll
I'll
figure
make
it
them
out. We
come
don't
to
wanna
my
be gone
living
for
room and
long.
join me.
Yeah, no, this was I mean, you know what? I'd love to tackle Hannibal stuff, but I feel like we should save it for
Yeah, we gotta
another
save
show
that
when
one
we-
for
you and
another
Brian
show.
Fuller.
I like knowing that I have to come back.
Yes,
Yeah.
there you go.
That makes
we're
me
gonna
feel
save
good.
it.
Yeah.
Leave
Someone
it.
out there is just hitting subscribe to the podcast right now. Like, oh, not this guy. No.
You won them back with Rockula. It's like you lost the fringe with Jim, but Rockula broke it all back.
Rockula brought it back.
One of my favorite rhymes in music history is in Rockula,
Okay.
which is, you can read the essay by William Sapphire. Are you the DJ? No, I'm the vampire.
Wow.
All right.
What better way to end a show than
Yeah.
that?
And Dean
really?
Cameron wrote that himself.
Go
Dean Cameron.
Well, me and Rob will make the pitch that we will be back. We'll figure something out.
Yep, we will.
And you have good babies.
I will. I'm going to make a good baby.
Good babies. You know? Slap it silly. Ooh, bite the cord. Always bite the cord.
Bite the cord.
Bite the cord.
That is
Bite
so
the- bite the cord.
Coneheads?
Yeah. Bite the
Okay,
cord.
good.
That is
All
so
right.
hardcore. I'm going to do it. So
Thank you, William, for being on the show.
Thank you for
guys
having
for
me.
listening. Thank you for being so passionate about us returning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We will see you next week. Thanks.
Bye, Rob Stash.